Am I the asshole for not telling my husband to apologize when he was just defending me? I, female, am the youngest of 7 kids. The problem I have is with the eldest sibling, my sister Mary. Mary has always undermined and judged my choices growing up. For example, when I wanted to take a gap year after high school to save money for university, Mary told me that it was a bad idea and that once I took a gap year, I would never go back, just like her. I almost didn't go through with it because she made me second-guess myself. Then after the gap year, I changed my major after the first semester, and she yelled at me for hours about how I was going to ruin my life and waste all my money since I couldn't make up my mind. I have countless examples of times that she made me cry from her yelling or made me question my decisions. And at the time, I felt compelled to listen to her. After meeting my husband, then boyfriend, and getting a therapist, they both helped me realize that I needed to distance myself from Mary because she's extremely toxic and both emotionally and verbally abusive. It took a lot of effort, but I finally went no contact with her. I finished university, got a job in my chosen field, thanks to my brother-in-law, moved in with my husband, and eventually got married. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. I still see Mary during family events and holidays. I hate seeing her, but it's my family too, and I don't want to miss out because of her. However, she always finds a way to ruin the holiday for me. She often takes digs at my husband, saying that she doesn't like him and that I could do better. My husband usually tells me to ignore her because he thinks she's only doing it for a reaction. Last weekend, we had our Thanksgiving celebration at my mum's house. When we arrived, my husband asked my mum if we could host Christmas at our place since her house is getting too small to fit everyone. Before my mum could respond, Mary jumped in, saying that we shouldn't offer a home that we didn't buy, and then called my husband an effing nepotism baby. She sounds jealous. Oh my god. That comment made me mad because she knows nothing about my husband's situation. My husband inherited our home from his grandfather after he passed away, so her saying that was incredibly insensitive. Both my mum and I told her off, and she quieted down for a bit. But during dinner, my brother asked her how work was going, and Mary chimed in again, claiming that I probably don't work since my husband is rich. I corrected her, explaining that we are not rich and that I work as a preschool teacher and that she knows this. Standing up for myself seemed to completely set her off. She yelled at me, saying that I was only working there because I couldn't handle the other program I was in, and that she knows that I'm not happy with my temporary job, and that I should be pursuing a more serious career. This woman needs to go take a long walk off a short pier. She's pissing me off. Mary kept yelling, tearing into my life choices. I got anxious and nervous, as I always do when she yells. It brings back the trauma that she caused me. I tried to defend myself, but started stuttering, which made her escalate. My mum and siblings tried to get her to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she said something that hurt the most. She called me a disappointment and claimed my mum felt the same way. At that point, my husband lost it. He started yelling at her, which is rare for him since he's usually very calm. He swore at her and called her some names, including a fat bitch and a see you in the Northern Territory. He also called her evil and said no one in the family liked her. It turned into a screaming match. My mum tried to calm Mary down and I my husband, but neither of them would stop. My husband and I ended up leaving and going back to the Airbnb we were staying at. The next day, we went back to my mum's house. My husband apologized to my mum for yelling and ruining dinner, but said he wouldn't apologize to Mary. Since then, my mum has been calling me, asking me to get my husband to apologize to keep the peace. Mary still lives with her, and my mum is tired of her ranting about how rude my husband was and cursing him out, but I told my mum that I'm not going to make him apologize. I know he was rude, and some of the things he said were harsh, but Mary was always rude, and no one is telling her to apologize to us. So would I be the asshole for not telling my husband to apologize just to keep the peace with my sister? I know that neither of us owe Mary anything, but apologizing would make things easier on my mum. In the comments, Frozen Broccoli says, "Not the asshole. And when should you expect your apology from Mary?" I also don't understand why your mother isn't upset. Mary spoke on her behalf, letting you know that she is disappointed in you. Does your mother not have a problem with this at all? Or is everyone in this family just so scared of Mary that she's allowed to say whatever she wants? OP replies, "Honestly, I really do think my family is scared of her. She definitely targets me the most, but she acts like this with everyone, even my mum sometimes. My mum's just getting too old to deal with her, but I did talk to my mum about the comment, and she said she didn't think that way. So I think it was Mary lying to try and hurt me." Ghost3022 says, "It definitely is that Mary is lying and probably jealous. And sorry, but I have no sympathy for your mum because she should have shut Mary down years ago when it first started happening. I agree with others about going no contact or low contact with anyone who supports her. And while I generally don't agree with the gender-based insults, Mary completely earned them. It's rare that someone earns them, but she did." Forgets-me-not says, "She isn't your mom. Although I think she thinks she is because she is the oldest. She probably gave up a lot to help out, so the resentment kicks in. She's jealous that you proved her wrong. Oh, so sorry, sis. You don't know it all. Not the asshole." And OP replies, "That is exactly what my therapist told me. I obviously talk a lot about my sister with her, and she said exactly that. She told me my sister was parentified, and that took away her childhood, so she takes out her resentment on me. I feel bad for that, but it wasn't my choice to have her take care of me, nor did I ask for the abuse. But I'm actually really glad that I proved her wrong. I agree that her being parentified was wrong, that all happened, is a problem, yes, but it's not your fault. That is the fault of your parents, and your parents are obviously not willing to tackle this problem because they don't want to. They don't want to rock the boat. Your parents should know that they're the ones that started this, and they're the reason that Mary is the way she is. So you're kind of just surrounded by enemies here, OP, and I think you know that. I think you know that when you've talked with your therapist. None of these people actually want what's best with you. Your parents don't want to apologize. They don't want to confront the problem. They don't want to fix something that they started. And Mary is not going to see reason. And everyone encourages Mary through not tackling the issue. You and your husband obviously see this. You and your husband are the scapegoats here. It's good that you're not allowing yourself to be the scapegoats. This is not your problem. Some people need some sense knocked into them, and this was Mary getting sense knocked into her and crying when someone finally pushes back. You can be messed up all you want, Mary. You have your problems. They are valid. Being parentified and, having that injustice against you, that is valid. But you can choose how you react. You can choose how you go forward and deal with life doing you wrong. I think Mary has chosen the wrong way to go about it. Mary is not effectively managing her emotions or her interpersonal relations with those around her, and I think she's only doing herself a disservice. If anything, Mary is the one that needs therapy here to deal with this shit, and Mary should be yelling at her parents, not at OP. I think you're not the asshole either, and I'm so happy that you and your husband are standing up for yourselves. And now, on to the update. I didn't expect my original post to get so many comments. First, I want to thank everyone who responded. Having a group of strangers get upset on my behalf was incredibly sweet and meant so much to me. Thank you all for your support. My husband also wanted me to pass along his thanks as well for standing up for me. I showed him this post, and he feels vindicated. His words, not mine. He truly is such a wonderful man, and I'm very lucky to have him. I responded to some comments, but I wanted to make a larger post to address the things I saw mentioned the most. I called my mum today and told her that my husband will definitely not be apologizing to Mary. He did apologize to the rest of the family for the scene though. I feel bad for my mum, but making the original post gave me the courage I needed to tell her this. I don't like seeing her stressed, but I need to protect my husband just like he always protects me. My husband read a couple of comments suggesting he could apologize for the language he used. He offered to do that, but I told him that it wasn't necessary, since Mary would never return the apology for what she said. My mum said she understood and promised not to bring it up again. I also told her, for her own sake, to ignore Mary if she starts ranting about it again. I saw a lot of comments about cutting off my mum or going low contact with her. Also, a lot were bashing her. I want to say up front that I'm not going to do that, nor do I appreciate those rude comments. I agree that my mum has enabled some of Mary's behavior, but she's not a bad mum. She has always tried to control Mary, but Mary doesn't listen to anyone. My mum raised 7 kids on her own. Our dad died when I was 2, and Mary was 14. It's impossible to pay attention to everything with so many kids, and I don't blame my mum for not being able to stop the abuse when it started. I didn't even know that it was abuse when I was a kid. I just thought that it was how older sisters are supposed to be. My mum worked a lot to support us when we were kids, and unfortunately, for all of us, this meant that Mary was forced to take on a parental role. And since I was the youngest, it made her both become very attached and very resentful towards me, which were words from my therapist. My mum has made mistakes, but so has every parent, and I'm not going to hold a grudge against the only parent I know. However, I think having a serious conversation with her would be a good idea. I might even bring her to a therapy session so that we can talk about everything that Mary put me through. I haven't talked to her about it much, and what my mum knows is just the tip of the iceberg. She really does try her best to parent us. She always has, but Mary is too much for everyone. Many people asked why Mary still lives at home. I mentioned this in a comment, but Mary has a chronic pain disease that forces her to take a lot of time off work. I also think it's another reason why she is so mean. I won't go into details. She does have a job, but she can't afford to live on her own. None of my siblings are willing to take her in, and most of them are low contact with her since she treats us all the same. My mum isn't the kind of person to turn her back on her kids, so she lets Mary stay. I also think she does this as a way of making it up to Mary for relying on her so much for childcare. Some comments asked if Mary was abusing my mum. I want to clarify that this isn't the case. For everything Mary has done, she's never put her hands on anyone. While she does fight like this with my mum sometimes, she treats her much better than the rest of us. The worst thing she does is use my mum as her personal therapist. Mary is absolutely not coming to Christmas. I was never planning to invite her, and my husband would never allow her within 20 feet of our home. She will throw a fit, but we don't care. I love the holidays, and for once, I'd like to spend them with people who actually care about me. I think it's a good idea to take your advice to avoid family gatherings if Mary is present. That will be hard, because I don't want to miss time with the rest of my family, but I'll just make plans with them individually. Once again, thank you to everyone who commented. You've given me a lot to think about, and I'm planning to share some of your comments with my therapist to work through them. Some of them hit hard, and I need time to unpack everything. This will be my last update, and I'll be deleting this account sometime after posting this. Take care, and I wish you all the best. From both me and my husband, we hope that you have a wonderful holiday. In the comments, about what will happen to Mary if their mother dies. I really don't know what will happen then. It's hard to think about that. What I do know is when that time comes, whatever happens to Mary will be none of my concern. Tonya Berner says, "It seems like Mary is projecting her own feelings about personal failure onto OP. That's where the college and career comments come from. I also noticed that there is no mention of Mary being married or having a long-term partner. I'm sure she's just unpleasant to be around, so she's likely jealous that OP found a husband who cares for her emotionally, and not only financially. Inheriting a home is still a big help, which is probably what Mary craves. Having a Mary in my family, all I can say is that if she took 1/10 of the energy that she used to be a rancid see you next Tuesday and channeled it into being a basically okay person, she wouldn't be alone." Yeah, at the end of the day, it's still a Mary problem. Life has been hard. She was parentified, but she should take that energy and change herself, change her life. At the end of the day, the majority of her problems are self-inflicted. She can have an amicable relationship with the rest of her family if she wants to, but she actively chooses not to. She chooses to be an awful person to be around. Don't expect sympathy from others when you live your life like that. I'm glad that OP and the husband are keeping respectable boundaries with Mary, not putting themselves in her presence, not allowing her to come to the Christmas. If she's not going to change as a person, there's only so much you can do, and having her in your presence is not a fun time. It's not a good thing. So it's not the best ending ever. Not everyone wins in this situation, but that's just life sometimes. I respect OP for doing what she has done. Thank you for sharing the story with us. I very much appreciated it, and good luck going forward. I ordered meat in front of my vegan friend. I, 28 female, have a friend since college, Mia, 27 female. She moved to LA in the last year and became a vegan while I lived in the Midwest. I'm supportive of her decision to be vegan, but it's overall not for me. So a couple of months back, we were FaceTiming and I was eating an omelette, and she made a comment about, "How can you eat eggs? Don't you know how mistreated those animals are?" I am fortunate enough to own my own home, and as such I have backyard chickens. The eggs that I ate came from the hens in my backyard. I brushed it off as a joke and said, "You do know that I have my own chickens, right? What do you think, I'm some mobster ordering these hens to lay for me as a protection fee? If they don't meet the quota, I tie them up outside and let the coyotes sniff around to scare them into submission?" Mia was less than amused and continued arguing with me. I continued to brush it off. So last week, I went out to visit her in LA. We hadn't seen each other in over a year. We ended up going out to a restaurant the day that I landed, and I ordered a burger with a gluten-free bun. I'm celiac. Well, Mia started raving about how offensive it was to eat meat in front of her, and what if she was allergic? I told her, "But you aren't allergic. My eating this doesn't impact you." Mia left for the bathroom. She came back and everything seemed normal up until the food arrived. I thought the burger looked weird and asked the server about it. Apparently, Mia went and changed my order to a vegan patty while she went to the bathroom. And the kicker, the patty contained gluten. So she literally ordered something that would have made me super sick if I ingested it. I told the server that this was a mistake, that I was celiac and could not eat the burger. Mia started going off, saying that I was being unreasonable and not open to new things, and how dare I eat meat in front of her. I told her, "You're the one being selfish by not respecting my choice, not to mention putting my health at risk. What the hell is the matter with you?" She refused to relent, so I left the restaurant. Mia was blowing up my phone to pay my part of the tab. I used the spare key that she gave me, grabbed my suitcase, left the key with her roommates, and hightailed it to a hotel. Now, this is the part where I might be an asshole. I went to a restaurant near my hotel, ordered a steak, and posted it on my socials. Well, of course, Mia saw it and continued to spam me on every platform imaginable. I ended up blocking her. Some of my friends say that taunting her with a steak was too far. Others agree that Mia was out of line changing my order. In the comments, Bleak Horizons X says, quotes, "Well, Mia started raving about how offensive it was to eat meat in front of her, and what if she was allergic? Then what's the point of going to a restaurant when everyone around her is eating meat?" OP says, "You bring up a good point. And I don't know, maybe so there was something to fight about, or to try to persuade those around her into being like her? I didn't really think that deep on it when she picked the restaurant." Dabbin Mama says, "And why isn't it a problem when she eats gluten in front of you? I mean, she literally changed your meal to something that you can't eat, not a personal choice." OP says, "My issue with gluten arises from eating it. It's not like I'll go into anaphylaxis from being around it, but the symptoms from eating gluten when you have celiac are nothing to scoff at. I agree what she did was really shitty. She tried to reach out through mutual friends and say that she didn't know how bad my reaction to it was." Dabbin Mama replies, "Oh, I totally understand the difference between an allergy and having celiac. I have it too. I don't think that it matters how bad your reaction is, she knew that you shouldn't eat it. Especially if she wants you to honor something that is a personal choice on her part. You have a medically necessary diet that comes with a lot of challenges. Just as you don't expect anyone to avoid eating gluten around you, you shouldn't expect anyone to avoid eating non-vegan food around her. It was pretty crazy on her part to change your meal to suit her personal choice, while also acknowledging and dismissing your medically necessary diet, even if she didn't realize how bad the damage could be. OP says, whoops, my B, literal thinking strikes again. Like, I get that veganism falls under her core values, but for her to jeopardize my health in the process is beyond baffling to me. She wanted to teach me a lesson. The hypocrisy in this situation is just astonishing. It's literal rules for thee, but not for me. You know, she'll bark in your face about her values, but then just try and kill you? Like, what? She should know that the vegan patty had gluten in it. And you told her to her face, and she's like, I'm gonna kill you anyway. This is a woman that's letting perfection get in the way of good enough. I don't understand why she has to act the way she acts. It's like the world is black and white, and she can't see that there are other people with other perspectives that are also acceptable. Just straight up, no, you didn't do what I told you to do, so, I'm gonna kill you now with my stupid decisions. I don't know. I hope that OP gets rid of her. This is not a person you should have in your life. It's someone that doesn't value your life. And now, on to the update. So, before I had mentioned that Mia was reaching out to mutual friends to try and get in touch with me, specifically our friend Heather, 28 female. And while Heather is a very sweet human being, she's a people pleaser and tends to parrot the last person who spoke to her. Heather lives in town, while Mia moved to LA. Heather wants to broker peace, as she is very uncomfortable with any sort of conflict. I had Heather over today, and she wanted to discuss the Mia situation, and I kept reiterating that I had made up my mind and didn't want to hear it. That if I wanted to talk about Mia and what she did, then I would talk to Mia. So Heather said, well, it's not like all her points aren't valid. I mean, look at your chickens. Oh, what about my chickens? For some background, my dad and I built my backyard chicken coop with an attached run. They also get supervised yard time. There are 3 hens. Well, Heather went on to say, and I'm assuming that she was parroting Mia at this point, that it was inhumane and unethical to keep my chickens, especially when I live in the Midwest, and that stealing their eggs robs them of nutrients. And it's not like I'm a professional when it comes to chickens. That's just straight up brain rot. What is she talking about? I've never heard such a brain rot statement. Oh my god. I looked at her and said, are you a professional cat wrangler? And she looked shocked and said, what? And I said, you have cats, but you're not a professional at it. What do you do when they're sick or acting off? And Heather says, well, I take them to the vet. And I say, but you're not a professional. And Heather says, well, no, but they're my pets. I wouldn't let something happen to them. And I reply, exactly. Those chickens are my pets, and they live a spoiled life. Heather looked away and said, well, Mia said she was going to report you for animal abuse. It's the blind leading the blind. I can't. I took Heather outside to see the coop. All 3 of my girls ran up. I showed her around and asked her if this looked like abuse. She said no. I showed her the meals that the chicken are fed, and I explained how I ensure the girls get their nutrients and how I put together their meals. I looked at her and said, what you talk about with Mia is your business. I would hope that you know me and trust me well enough to see that I don't torture my animals. But if you have doubts, I'll show you around. I will not be discussing Mia with you any further. I made the choice to go no contact. That doesn't mean that you have to take a side or fix things between us. Heather ended up apologizing and saying how Mia sounded so confident in what she was saying that she believed it without a second thought. I ended up feeling so exhausted and still haunted by the ghost of Mia. I don't know how serious she is about reporting me for animal abuse, but there's nothing abusive going on here. I hope she's just spitting venom, hoping that something will get me to unblock her. I can't believe that this is the same woman who used to hold my hair in college. and I'm starting to question the level of investment I want with Heather. In the comments, Oz Space Cadet says, "It's funny that Heather is supposedly a people pleaser, but she had no trouble accusing you of animal abuse without being properly informed on the topic. Sounds like she's a bit selective on when she plays nice." These types usually pick on the nicest members of a group because they're too scared to cross the more assertive ones. Waking Dreamland says, "Honestly, you need to reduce contact with Heather. Look how ready she was to scold you. How ready to take Mia's side without even bothering to ask you what happened. She's a bad friend." OP says, "This isn't the first time. Heather is very sweet but easily persuaded. Respectfully, I love her dearly, but if there was ever a friend that would accidentally join a cult, it would be her. I've tried to bolster her confidence over the years to encourage her to think more for herself, but ultimately you may be right. I may need to step back for my own self-preservation." I honestly agree with that. If your friend can't stand up to the more aggressive person that is giving them a disgusting and untrue narrative, that's not a real friend. That person does not have a spine. Keep them at an arm's length. Especially if you've talked to them about it and said, "Hey, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you say and do what you do, but they are lying to you. And I believe you know they're lying to you, but you're just scared that they will give you more backlash if you give them the energy that you're giving me. How can I trust you to be an impartial friend with a solid moral compass that won't backstab the less aggressive person? If you're always just going to take the side of someone that is louder, that is more aggressive, how can anyone trust you? As a friend, can you please have a backbone, stand up for what's right, and don't be scared to confront friends that scare you?" If you've had that conversation with someone like that, and they still kowtow to the more aggressive friend, keep them away from you. Keep them at an arm's length if you still want that relationship, but that person is bad for you. Much like family members that will punish you, the victim, for the louder other family member always being like, I don't know, gigantic pieces of shit that cause trouble, and the family puts the blame on you because they know that you're not gonna rock the boat as much as this dickhead above them. I guess I want to say just have some respect for yourself, and if you can't get through to those people, distance yourself from them and surround yourself with people that do care about you. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope you keep Heather away, and I hope you keep the vegan friend away. That's just not a good time. Those people will not see reason, I really don't think. But I'd love to know what you guys have to say about this one down in the comments. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's not allowed to bring her homemade food to Thanksgiving because her cooking is ruining the meal? It's been 3 days and she still hasn't come back with the photos, so this is very sad. Every year, our family does a big Thanksgiving dinner, and we all typically bring a dish or two. My sister, who is a lovely person in every other way, insists on cooking something homemade every time. Well, the issue? She's not a great cook, and I don't mean just not great. I mean, she's somehow managed to turn classic dishes into borderline inedible creations. For context, last Thanksgiving, she showed up with her special recipe stuffing that was over-seasoned with random spices like cinnamon and cardamom. It was dry, and the flavors were confusing and totally off for stuffing. Only one person took a small bite, and the rest went untouched. Another year, she brought a green bean casserole that had some kind of strange chewy texture. She later admitted that she used coconut milk and almond flour to experiment. No one wanted seconds of that either. This year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. Since I'm responsible for putting it all together, I wanted to keep the menu consistent so that people could actually enjoy a cohesive meal. I thought that I would avoid drama by asking her to bring non-food items instead, like wine, soda, or even some flowers. I explained to her, very kindly I thought, that I just wanted to make things easy and streamlined, and I would handle the main dishes. But she didn't take it well. She got offended and told me that I was being controlling and shutting her out of the family gathering. She then accused me of making her feel inadequate and said that Thanksgiving is about everyone contributing, not me deciding what's acceptable. I told her that everyone appreciates her effort, but that she should contribute in other ways and still be a part of it. She doubled down and said she's bringing her famous green bean casserole, whether I like it or not. Now, my mum and a couple of other family members have chimed in, saying that I should just let her bring whatever she wants because it's Thanksgiving and it's the thought that counts. They're acting like I'm committing some huge offense by wanting the food to be enjoyable for everyone and not having random experimental dishes that no one will eat. But I feel like I'm just trying to keep the meal enjoyable and, frankly, edible. I don't think it's wrong to want guests to actually enjoy the food, especially since I'm putting in a lot of effort to host. Am I really being unreasonable here? Am I the asshole? Updates. Alright, well, things have escalated fast. Thanks to everyone who offered advice. I tried to compromise, but it's already turning into a whole thing, and Thanksgiving is still a few weeks away. After our last conversation, my sister was being pretty cagey about what she planned to make, so I reached out to my mum, hoping that she could help smooth things over. Instead, she got defensive, saying I'm overthinking and that it's just one dish. I told her I wasn't sure it was just one dish anymore, especially after hearing about my sister's grocery haul, including canned oysters and edible glitter. Then my mum let slip that my sister has been hard at work on some creative menu that she's planning as her Thanksgiving surprise. Apparently, she's been telling the family group chat, which I wasn't included in by the way, that I'm being controlling and that she wants to expand everyone's palate with something truly unique. To top it off, my cousin sent me a screenshot from the group chat where my sister said that she's bringing not one, but 3 dishes to Thanksgiving now. She's calling them her Thanksgiving Trio Experience, complete with her own place settings and little menu cards she's designing. I'm officially panicking because I have no idea what she's planning to serve. And from what I've heard, it is not remotely traditional. At this point, half the family thinks I'm overreacting, while the other half is texting me with things like, "Is she really bringing glittered sweet potatoes?" I feel stuck. If I try to control it anymore, I'm the bad guy, but if I don't, Thanksgiving might turn into a tasting event for my sister's avant-garde cooking. So yeah, Thanksgiving is weeks away, and it's already become a family spectacle. I don't know whether to brace myself or just preemptively order pizza. And now, onto the update. Alright, so Thanksgiving is now just a little over 2 weeks away, and somehow things have escalated even further than I thought possible. I thought maybe my sister's Thanksgiving Trio Experience would be the peak of the drama. Well, turns out I was wrong. Since the last update, my sister has become fully committed to making her dishes the main attraction. She's been dropping hints in the family group chat, which I'm still not included in, but shout out to my cousin for the screenshots, about how this Thanksgiving will be one to remember, and calling it her Thanksgiving debut, which she's apparently been referring to herself as the Thanksgiving head chef, and has hinted that she's bringing some kind of culinary surprise centerpiece that will transform the whole experience. From what I can piece together, she's planning a main statement dish, in addition to her original 3 side dishes. I'm picturing something equally bizarre, but on a much larger scale. And honestly, I'm terrified. If her green bean casserole was already pushing it, I can't even imagine what she thinks is worthy of being the centerpiece. Then, to make things even weirder, my mum texted me privately and suggested that I step back this year and let my sisters shine since she's so excited about her contributions. My mum thinks that if we just give her this moment, it'll make her happy and she'll get it out of her system. She even hinted that maybe I should focus on decorations and drinks instead of the main dishes, which feels like an attempt to turn hosting over to my sister without actually saying it. So now I'm left with a choice: go along with my mum's plan and let my sister essentially hijack Thanksgiving, or keep pushing back and risk a family showdown. I just wanted a nice Thanksgiving with dishes that everyone would enjoy, but it seems like I'm either about to hand over the whole meal to her, or prepare for some serious drama. Thanksgiving isn't even here yet, and it already feels like a circus. I'm half tempted to just sit back and see what chaos unfolds. but part of me is still worried about subjecting the whole family to whatever artistic statement that she has planned. And now, on to the next update. Here we are, the day before Thanksgiving, and things have continued to spiral. I decided to let my sister move forward with her trio experience, since pushing back would only make things worse. I thought we had a plan. She would bring her dishes, and I'd make sure that there were plenty of other options to keep the peace. This morning, my mum let me know that my sister is now adding a surprise dish to her contributions. She's been very secretive about what it is, which has everyone nervous after her past attempts. My mum thinks that it's sweet that my sister is putting in so much effort, but a few other family members are not as optimistic. My cousin texted me privately, asking if I had backup food ready, and my dad casually mentioned bringing extra rolls just in case. At this point, I've decided to stick with the plan and let her have her moment. I'll still have a few traditional dishes on hand so no one goes hungry. Tomorrow will probably be chaotic, but it should at least make for a memorable holiday. Wish me luck. I'll update after Thanksgiving if anything noteworthy happens. Alright, and here is what we were all waiting for, the final update. Let's see what fantastic creations OP's sister comes up with. I'm looking forward to this. Thanksgiving dinner is officially over, and I genuinely don't know where to start. I feel like I just lived through a fever dream of culinary chaos and family drama, and I need a moment to breathe before I can even process everything. My cousin and I are heading out for drinks to dissect all of it because honestly, what just happened deserves its own Netflix special. I'll post photos later when I get home, but for now, let me try to give you the rundown. So, my sister showed up earlier than expected, which I should have seen coming. She came in like a storm, carrying not just her 3 dishes, but also this giant platter wrapped in foil, which she was clearly trying to make a big deal about. She immediately started rearranging the table, moving my dishes to the side so hers could take center stage. She even brought her own table runner and candles, saying something about setting the mood for a creative dining experience. I decided not to fight her on it, because at this point, I just wanted to get through the night without a blow-up. Her trio experience was, well, let's just say that it was everything I feared and more. She started with a glittery sweet potato mash that somehow managed to taste like a mix of sugar and sand. What? The glitter wasn't even edible glitter. It was craft glitter, which I didn't realize until one of the kids said, "This is crunchy." And I looked closer. That's diabolical. Ew. Then there was the cranberry and oyster relish. Yes, oysters and cranberries. It looked like someone had spilled jam into clam chowder, and the smell alone was enough to make me lose my appetite. Finally, she brought a pumpkin curry casserole that had raisins in it for some reason, and this weird fishy smell that clung to the air for way too long. Why'd I have a fishy smell? Is that salmonella? What's going on? But the piece de resistance was her surprise centerpiece dish, which turned out to be a turkey gelatin mold. Yes, she took ground turkey, mixed it with some kind of broth and seasonings, and turned it into a wobbly, translucent mold shaped like a turkey. She even garnished it with parsley and cherry tomatoes to make it festive. I wish I were kidding. The entire table went silent when she unveiled it, except for my cousin, who immediately started coughing to cover up what I'm pretty sure was a laugh. We need to lock her up. This is a war crime. You're describing war crimes to me right now. Things hit their peak when my mum, who has been defending her this whole time, took one bite of the gelatin mold and just froze. She didn't say anything, but you could see the regret on her face. My sister, noticing the lack of enthusiasm, decided to go on this long speech about how Thanksgiving food is too boring and how she's trying to challenge our palates. She even called my ham and mashed potatoes uninspired, which was rich coming from someone serving glitter sand potatoes. The breaking point came when my aunt, who was usually the peacekeeper, tried the gelatin mold and actually gagged. She tried to be polite about it, but my sister saw her reaction and completely lost it. She started yelling about how nobody in the family supports her, and we're all stuck in the past with our unoriginal food. She even accused me of sabotaging her dishes by not hyping them up enough to everyone. At this point, half the table was trying not to laugh, and the other half was just staring at their plates, probably wondering how we got here. My sister ended up storming out of the house, but not before saying something along the lines of, "You'll regret not appreciating my vision when I'm famous." Famous for poisoning your entire family to death, that's what. She left most of her food behind, which my cousin and I quietly threw out after dinner. The rest of the night actually turned out pretty nice once the tension was gone. My dad's emergency ham was a lifesaver, and everyone agreed that next year we're either going to a restaurant or just skipping Thanksgiving altogether. So now I'm sitting here wondering how this even became my life. I'll post photos later because you all need to see the turkey gelatin mold to believe it, but for now, I'm off to grab a drink, or 3, with my cousin to laugh and cry over everything that went down. This Thanksgiving was truly something else, and I don't know whether to feel relieved it's over or brace myself for whatever fresh chaos my sister has planned for next year. Stay tuned for photos, it's going to be worth it. Yeah, and again, my ass has been waiting for 3 days for the photos, and you still not provided them, OP. You have let us down this holiday season, you heathen. In the comments, New Collection says, "I've been waiting for this. I'm in Canada, and our Thanksgiving was a month ago." 1. Thanksgiving isn't the time to be playing around with food. You're feeding multiple families, and people know what to expect. It's about enjoying food with family and being thankful, not to expand and experiment with food. 2. Groceries are too expensive to be playing around like that. Sister needed that reality check. Did she not taste her food before serving it to people? I feel like this must be a prank on her part. It just doesn't seem real. I followed from your other posts and I was thinking, no one in our family could get away with this. We're Cambodian and just very honest. If someone had bad cooking, we would let them know and not allow it to get to that point. We don't play about our food. I'm so excited to see the photos. I hope you guys enjoyed your Thanksgiving regardless, and that the food added some entertainment for the evening. OP replies, "I'm glad you've been following along. And trust me, this Thanksgiving gave us all entertainment in spades. You're so right. Thanksgiving is not the time for culinary experiments, especially ones this extreme. Groceries are way too expensive to turn them into glittery disasters and gelatin monstrosities. And honestly, the fact she didn't seem to notice how bad her food was makes me wonder if she even tasted it at all. I wish this had been a prank because it felt so surreal at times. Your family's honesty sounds refreshing. I honestly wish someone in my family had been upfront with her years ago. Maybe then we wouldn't have ended up with a turkey gelatin mold centerpiece this year. That reality check was long overdue, and based on how things went down, I think she might be finally getting the message." Pink Toes and Red Knees says, "Were people eating more of your food than hers in front of her? Did she notice? And how did she react?" And OP replies, "Oh, absolutely. My backup dishes were practically disappearing while her creations sat mostly untouched. People were doing their best to be polite, but it was hard to miss how quickly my food was going compared to hers. She definitely noticed. She kept glancing at the table and making comments like, 'Wow, everyone's saving room for the main event, huh?' That's so good. Which I think was her way of trying to convince herself that people were pacing themselves for her food. Me when I'm delusional. When no one went back for seconds of her dishes, you could see the frustration building. It all boiled over after my aunt's reaction to the turkey gelatin mold. That's when she started accusing everyone of being close-minded and me of undermining her creativity. Safe to say that it was a night to remember." Lonely Scholar says, "I do want to know what your mum said after everything was over." OP says, "Oh, my mum's reaction was priceless. After everything calmed down and my sister had stormed out, my mum sat there quietly for a while, probably replaying the chaos in her head. Finally, she sighed and said, 'Well, I guess she tried, but maybe she needs to practice more before next year.' I couldn't even respond because I was biting my tongue to keep from laughing. Practice? At this point, it's less about practice and more about her needing a whole new approach to cooking, and a reality check about what's actually edible. My cousin gave me a look that screamed, "Next year? We are not doing this again." I think my mum is finally starting to realize that her constant defending of my sister hasn't exactly helped. Whether or not that sticks remains to be seen, but at least for one night, she seems to understand how ridiculous this whole situation was. Frivolous Fredbear says, "Honestly, I hope this shows your family the consequences of letting your sister push you around, especially in your own home, and considering what your sister made, you'll hopefully be getting a lot of apologies tomorrow." OP says, "I'm hoping for the same. If this doesn't wake my family up to how enabling her has spiraled into this level of chaos, I don't know what will. Watching her take over my table, rearrange everything, and then serve those dishes should have been a reality check for everyone. The turkey gelatin mold alone was enough to make my cousin and I silently vow to never let this happen again. As for apologies, I'll believe it when I see it. My mum and auntie looked mortified at certain points, so maybe they'll finally admit that they were wrong to back her up. Honestly, I'm just relieved the night is over." Rio Reddit asks, "Did she chow down herself? I don't understand how it could be this bad without having malfunctioning taste buds." And OP says, "Oh, she absolutely did. She was proudly serving herself generous portions of everything that she made and going on about how much she loves bold flavors. Watching her genuinely enjoy the turkey gelatin mold while the rest of us struggled to keep a straight face was something else. At this point, I'm starting to think that her taste buds really are on another planet. Stay tuned for the photos. It'll all make sense when you see them." And that's all we have for that one so far, and frankly, I'm disgusted, but better her loving her old bold flavors than anyone else on this planet. If and when she shares the photos, I'd love to know. I'll put them up on the community section, community posts here on YouTube, so those that missed out can see just exactly what we're dealing with here, what abomination she cooked up for us. I'm genuinely surprised that she liked her food as well. Like, she committed to that bit hard. I would like to believe that she hated it, but she kept a straight face so that she could maintain her superiority over everyone else. Oh, you guys just don't know what real art looks like. You guys just don't like real experimental flavors. That's the version of reality that I'd like to live in with this one, and I'm so glad that she came back and shared this experience with us, because that was definitely something. That is one of the Thanksgiving dinners of all time. So thank you, OP. I appreciate the story. It was worth the wait. Am I the asshole for obeying my in-laws' wishes too literally? So I sent my in-laws an invitation for dinner. We stupidly thought that it would be nice if it came from me. This is the message. Religious greeting. Husband was thinking of inviting you next weekend, God willing. What would work for you, or do you have other plans? 10 minutes later, father-in-law called my husband to tell him they wished the message had been longer and warmer. Husband agreed to let me know for next time. The next day, father-in-law called again over something else. Husband used the opportunity to point out that they still hadn't replied to my message. Father-in-law told him that they would not be replying to me until I fixed it and made it warmer. They also pointed out that at my job, I have to adopt a certain tone to be perceived as professional. This is the same in a family context. Since they wanted me to adopt the same strategies that I use at work, I figured that I'd use ChatGPT to get frustrating tasks out of the way as quickly as possible. I showed the AI my original message, told it my in-laws' complaints, and then told it to rewrite it super warmly, as if I were the perfect, insert ethnicity, daughter-in-law. It came up with an absolutely ridiculous message with emojis everywhere. I copied and pasted it and sent right after my last, left unread invitation. Husband sent it with me and is okay with it. I first suggested to him that I could write a genuine message about my grievances here, but he pointed out that I did so over another petty complaint months ago and that it led to nowhere. We decided to go with the ChatGPT message, minus some of the emojis. Father-in-law works with AI. I have no doubt he can tell this is ChatGPT. Even mother-in-law will know that there is no way either husband or I wrote this. I do kind of feel a bit guilty about the passive aggressiveness of our response. There is a very obvious cultural context here. I understand my culture seems cold to them, the way theirs seems over the top to me, but as God is my witness, I have unsuccessfully tried everything else to communicate with them. They have ignored the new message. No phone call to husband. I don't want this to go nuclear, I just want them to say, sure, see you next week, and pretend to tolerate my cooking. Am I the asshole? In the comments, AlwaysHelpful22 says, if someone told me to re-invite them in a more pleasant manner, or they wouldn't respond, I would never again invite them anywhere, until they responded to the original invite. I wouldn't be rude about it, I'd just ignore them until they responded. Not the asshole. Same. The way they're schooling and gatekeeping OP's tone is completely unacceptable. No way I'd send a second invitation. I'd most likely rescind the one that I sent originally. Not the asshole. Yep, I do not play games like this. Maybe this is a patriarchal culture, but I don't accept anyone asserting such control over a friendly invite. I hope husband has OP's back, because I feel it's equally valid to respond as your own behavior police. Father-in-law's response was rude and demeaning. I would say I will never invite them again unless there is a sincere, meaningful apology. Pride of Cape Town says, I can't get past this. Husband wishes them to come to dinner. Father-in-law complained to husband about the invite. Husband agreed to let OP know for next time. What? Why is there even a next time? Why can't husband invite his own damned parents? It's a good question. Big Ad says, not the asshole. At this point, they can piss off. If they are to be invited to dinner, then your husband can send the invite. They are his parents. He can deal with them. And in the future, ask yourself why you would bother inviting them for anything if they can't be bothered with basic manners. My dad, though, just sends a message on the day and goes, dinner ready in 30 minutes, get here. Still makes me chuckle whenever it randomly comes in. He's not very fussed with familial professionalism, or whatever your in-laws were bitching about. OP says, I just send screenshots of train tickets to my parents to let them know when I'll be visiting, no text. This was my version of being warm and fuzzy. Yeah, I would go with what those first commenters said and just rescind the invitation quietly and go, no contact on my side with those two pieces of shit. OP's husband is more than welcome to bridge that gap if he would like to, but, we don't negotiate with terrorists here. These people are holding you hostage and not being reasonable at all. It's just, you have to speak to me in this manner, you must respect me, you have to be warmer, I am not even going to give you the time of day until you do exactly what I say. In that case, I want nothing to do with you gigantic pieces of shit. You bring no value to my life. You are a cold and bitter wind on a beautiful summer's day. You guys just ruin the vibe. Husband can deal with that if he likes to. I understand that my words are inflammatory as well. They will cause fighting. That strategy will cause drama and will bring unnecessary drama to people's lives. But my point here is you need to make a stand. You need to set up these boundaries. You need to enforce them. Creating and enforcing boundaries is not you being unreasonable. You need to have them with these people if you want them to respect you at all. If you keep doing everything they ask of you, they will have negative respect for you. And now, onto the update. Mother-in-law did reply to my second message, saying, religious greetings. Thank you for the invitation. We will get together soon, God willing. I did not follow up, and I let the invitation expire. They did not come. Oh, who could have seen that coming? A bit after that, we had a large family gathering at their place. My husband's grandparents, his parents, their kids, and grandkids. I kept the interaction with father-in-law and mother-in-law to a minimum. I was polite, I greeted them, but nothing more. I felt I had made enough efforts trying to connect with people that did not respect me enough to reply to a text message. In the past, they've always used my lack of relationships with the rest of the family against me. I was not close enough to son-in-law or sister-in-law, or I did not spend enough time with grandmother-in-law, and it was proof that I was not making any effort to integrate into the family. I have tried to explain their family is very large and it takes a while to build a relationship with tens of people who are already close-knit, but you might as well try and convince a mountain to move to a different spot. Well, not this time. The younger kids have always been easy. They're not as set in their ways, and they accepted me very quickly. I spent hours with kids playing all over me. The babies used to cry when they saw me. They hate strangers. Not only have they stopped crying, they smile and play with me now. My oldest sister-in-law also married outside of their culture, so she's always been the most empathetic since she knows what her husband went through with them. My other sister-in-law is a lot more like mother-in-law. Hard one to win over, but even she softened, and we're now in a place where we get along. The final blow, though, were my husband's grandparents, father-in-law's parents. They are very conservative and would have clearly preferred if he had married within the community. The grandmother barely speaks a word of English. I'm not what they wanted, but even they have moved on. They hugged me, and they were clearly happy to see me. Between the fact that I now feel comfortable with everyone else, and the fact that I stop even trying with them, I guess it dawned on them that my problem was not their family, it was them. It might seem like a small thing to the readers here, but such a level of actual awareness coming from them is nothing less than a miracle of God in my eyes. After the gathering, they called my husband again and asked him if I hated them and still held a grudge for the fact that they opposed us getting married for a very long time. Husband, in his infinite patience, argued for hours with them and tried to explain that when you treat people unkindly, they do not tend to love you back. He pushed back on the idea that I was punishing them and reminded them that I have tried very hard for months to get along with them, and all I got was criticism and ghosting. Whatever else was said during that fight, it seems to have had some sort of effect. They have stopped calling my husband once a week to give a detailed report of everything that I've done wrong during the last 7 days. While they still cannot accept to see me wearing pants around them, they seem to have given up on trying to convince us I should never wear pants outside of my own house. Again, the 21st century reader may be confused by how this constitutes progress. I'm grading on a curve here. And for her credit, I think mother-in-law has taken the mental load to try and fix the relationship. She's been the one texting me, giving news, and inviting us to a restaurant. All of the emotional labor that used to be mine. Father-in-law is still a piece of work, but since his parents now like me, there's not much he can say or do. Ironically, his culture is now working for me. In the comments, way to bury the lead. Pants? Pants? That's their problem? You have patience I never could, nor would I ever want. And OP says, one of them. One of many. This Is My Band Name says, I could never be in that relationship. There's absolutely no way I could hold my tongue amongst all of their shenanigans. Crazy how setting up and maintaining those boundaries, once you've been slighted, works. At least for those willing to see reason. And for the longest time, those two were not willing to see reason. I think OP approached this situation in a really smart way. Getting along with the rest of the family, ingraining yourself even deeper in that community so that those two realize they're the problem. Everyone else is cool with OP, but not these two, and now they have no one on their side. Very glad things worked out in the end, and very glad that OP, is allowed to wear pants outside of her own house. Whoa! Didn't know that would be a problem in this day and age, but, it's stranger things can occur. Thank you for the story, OP. I very much appreciated that. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Electrical BA, titled, Am I the asshole here for telling my 19 female daughter that she'll have to move out of my house if I get a divorce because of her lies after her stepdad saw her naked? My husband and I have been married for a little over 5 years now. I will say that my daughter and him have an okay relationship, not exactly father and daughter, but almost advised, asked, and given relationship, basically. I've never picked up on anything weird from my husband towards my daughter, and my daughter has never said or insinuated anything at all as well. On Thursday, my husband and I were watching a movie in the living room. We paused the movie as he got up to use the bathroom. I heard him knocking on the door twice, literally 3 knocks each time on the door a couple of seconds apart. It was loud enough for me to hear him knocking from the living room. The next moment, I heard screaming. I rushed to the bathroom and saw my daughter completely naked, covering herself and yelling at my husband to get out. I didn't see everything that happened, but what I saw after I heard yelling was my husband literally falling over his own feet and struggling to get the bathroom door closed. I asked my husband what happened, and he said he knocked, nobody answered, so he went in, and my daughter was naked in front of the mirror, and he tried to get out. After my daughter calmed down, I asked her side of what happened, and she said she was changing, and all of a sudden, my husband walked into the bathroom. I asked her why she didn't answer him when he knocked, and she said he didn't. I told her that I heard him knock, so I'm sure that he did. She said she didn't hear it because she has her earpods in listening to music. We got the situation sorted, and my husband did apologize to her and explained that he thought the bathroom was empty and walked in. She even gave him a hug and apologized for yelling at him. The problem now is that my daughter got family members involved, and they're now calling my husband a creep. I got a call from my sister berating me for still having my husband in the house. I asked what she meant, and it came out that my daughter spun a whole other story and left out the fact that she was listening to music with her earpods and is telling everyone that she answered him and he still walked into the bathroom to look at her. We have cameras in our hallway, and it proves that my husband did knock, as you can see it on the video, but the cameras have no audio. I sat my daughter down and asked her, and she denied saying anything like that, or that she told anyone anything. I got mad and asked, then how does your aunt know what happened? And she went silent. She said she talked to her niece about it, and she must have told her mother. I asked her why did she lie about what happened and make my husband look bad when he did nothing wrong, and she again denied lying about anything. And I told her about what my sister had told me. She just started to cry and say sorry. She was just talking and making up scenarios with her niece. The whole day yesterday, I got calls and texts from my family members as the story spread. The wrong story is spreading, and my husband is looking like a creep to everyone. I sat my daughter down again and had her read some of the things being said about my husband and told her that she has to fix this because her lying is what caused this. She refused, saying she didn't spread this and she only told her niece and doesn't want to say anything to anyone because they'll think bad about her. She said they know my husband and this will just blow over. Everything blew up when my husband walked into the living room with his bags packed and said that he's going to go stay with his parents for a while because he doesn't want to be in this situation anymore, where he's made out to be this kind of person. My daughter broke down and apologized repeatedly and said that she will fix it, but my husband still left. I told her that if I get divorced because of her lies, she will be moving out of my house. I told her she better fix what she did and tell everyone what really happened because I will not be losing a man that loves and actually cares for me like my husband does over lies. She asked me to help her, and I told her no, she isn't a child anymore, and her lies for attention did this. This is on her. I already tried, and now I'm also being accused of taking my husband's side and not providing a safe space for my daughter. I don't know what to do. My husband asked for space, and my daughter is inconsolable at the moment. I'm not in the best state myself. Sorry if my post is all over the place. I don't even know if my title is correct on this post. I have reread, and it still doesn't make sense to me. In the comments, Yoshi and Ames says, I would never move back to a home where someone has spread false sexual misconduct stories about me for no reason and still lives there. I would never be okay being alone with that person. Even if they said it straight, even if they were sorry, even if I fully forgave them, those kinds of rumors can and will ruin a person's entire life. There is no guarantee in any way the rumors won't continue, spread further, get twisted, or the person won't lie again, starting it all over. What's to stop her from setting it straight, but in an effort to save space, lean on, I don't want to have to move, so I have to take it back, No, I don't know why I'd lie. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Just trust me, I did lie though. People will talk. The horse is out of the barn. What's done is done. No matter what happens now, people will always question it, suspect him, and suspect that you are protecting him. However it plays out, your daughter needs to talk to a professional. Being sorry, learning the hard way isn't enough. She needs professional help to figure out why she chose to lie, why she would tell her niece this, why she repeatedly doubled down when she got caught, etc. Perpetually Exhausted says, "Not the asshole, but you should be aware that even if she does come clean, your husband has every right to not want to live in the same house as her again. You may still have a very hard decision to make. She lied and had him labeled as a predator and saw nothing wrong with allowing that to continue so long as she didn't look bad for lying. And what are the chances everyone thinks OP forced her to say it? Damage is done." Meep Moop says, "That's what I was thinking. Then they'll assume that OP is sticking up for her husband even after what he did, quote unquote. There is no winning here." OP says, "That is already happening when I tried to explain what really happened. I'm being accused of protecting my creep of a husband and not giving my daughter a safe space." Meep Moop says, "I'm so sorry. If you ever read my other comment, I mentioned that you might want to start gathering evidence that she's lying. If it's legal to record without the other party's consent in your state, try to get her to confess while you record her, or have her confess through a text message. People need to see that it came from her and that you didn't just pressure her." I don't even know what you do in this situation. I think what's going to happen is that a divorce happens and the daughter gets kicked out and everyone kind of has to start again from nothing. And I hope the daughter goes and gets therapy. She either learns from this or continues to live in ignorance. I definitely don't think you're the asshole here for telling her that she'll have to move out if, you get divorced. That's called the consequences of her actions. I understand that she's 19 and everything, and people make mistakes. But this is like a really, really, really bad mistake that you need the world to come down on you for, to beat you down so that you learn why doing something like that is wrong and how to not do this again. There's definitely other mistakes, not as bad as this, that you can make as a young adult and still be allowed to live with your parents and still have that safe space. I don't think that she deserves to have a safe space for this one. I think if you do, divorce and keep her living with you, that is only going to protect her and it will allow this to happen again in the future. This is one of those situations I think you have to allow your child to hit rock bottom and rebuild themselves. They need to get professional help. They need to sort their shit out because that line of thinking, that way of existing is so dangerous to you and is so dangerous to those around you. I don't think that kicking her out and living with him is going to fix the situation. I think it's too far gone. Even if you get first-hand evidence from her saying, you know what, this is all on me, I lied, I'm a bad person, I spread the rumor, people are still not going to believe that because this situation it's too far-fetched in other people's minds. They'd be like, yeah, that's a convenient excuse, you predator. Yikes. And now, on to the update. Sorry for only updating now, but I'm not in the best of places at the moment, and it's taken me a couple of days to get my thoughts together. I don't know what to do anymore. My husband has asked for a divorce. First, let me answer a couple of questions that I saw coming up repeatedly. We have locks on every door in the house. I don't know why my daughter didn't use the lock on the door. That's just even worse. That's so much worse. The cameras inside the house aren't pointed at any door except for the ones pointed at the front door and back door. The other camera is at the end of the hall, and you can see every door in the hallway from that camera. We have a bathroom in our room, but we can't use it at the moment. The water is completely shut off due to renovation of the bathroom. My husband has asked for a divorce. On Friday, he came back home and asked to talk. During our talk, he showed me his phone, and some of the things my family members were saying about him were just outright horrible. Calling him a pedo, asking him how many times he has taken a peek before. I don't recognize any of my family anymore. I understand if he actually did something, but he hasn't, and the hatred they are showing over a stupid mistake tell me that they refuse to listen, or they have hated him from the start, and is now using this to try and get rid of him. He said he can't ever come back, and this has now started to affect his work life as well. He was called into HR to explain because some of my family members have called his office. Luckily, they haven't done anything and refuse to do anything until a case is brought against him. They know my husband very well, and I think they believe him as well because he is still working. During our talk, he explained that he does love me, and still does, and he's happy that I stood up for him. But my daughter's actions have caused too many problems, accusations, and made him scared. He explained he sat at the office and at his parents' home every day, just waiting for the police to show up and arrest him. He said that her lies broke him and he can't see a way to come back from it. I asked him to reconsider and that maybe we can go for counseling, but he also refused, saying that everything is too broken to fix. I told him that I'll kick my daughter out and told him about everything I did and told my daughter to do, but he said that I'm missing the point. His life could have been completely ruined because of a lie. My family will never trust him again and will always harbor hatred or suspicions about him. Especially now that my daughter wants to clear things up so long afterwards, they will think that we forced her to do it, and that will just make things worse. He said he will always remain the creep in their eyes. I asked him what if I cut off my family and we moved away, because I was already working on that. I showed him my phone and the message I have sent every single person so far that refused to listen and that I blocked them. He asked what about my daughter, and I told him again I will be kicking her out and she'll be staying with my parents from now on. He asked what if we move away. Will I abandon my daughter then because he doesn't want to hear or be near her or be alone with her at all? I didn't know what to say about that. Before I could answer, he said again that it's better for us to get divorced. He said, I will never ask you to abandon your daughter. I will never expect you to do something like that, but I don't want her anywhere near me. If you abandon your daughter, I don't know if I could ever look at you the same afterwards, even if it was for my sake. The only solution here is for us to get divorced. My daughter came running down the hallway into the living room, crying. I think she was listening to our conversation. Before she could get a word out, my husband jumped up from the couch and put his hands out and asked her to not get near him. He said, before you say anything, I will start to record the conversation now, and took out his phone. I think I saw something break in my daughter's eyes at that moment, as the realization of everything hit her all at once. She asked my husband to forgive her, and that she never meant for things to get so out of hand. She was just making up scenarios with her cousin, and her cousin was the one that ran with it. My husband asked her why she didn't clear it up immediately then. She said she didn't think that it would go this far and thought that it would just blow over because everyone knows him. He showed her his phone and asked her to read some of the messages, and my daughter went completely silent. We talked about it for 4 hours, and at the end, my husband said he would give us 3 months to move out of the house because it is his house. My daughter can keep the car because it was a gift, and that he'll finish paying this year's tuition, but will not pay anything going forward. He said he hasn't gotten a lawyer yet, but told me to get one. He said he would like to do this without a lawyer, but if I want to, I can get one. He said he'll be fair in the divorce, and he doesn't harbor anything against me, but he just can't stay in this relationship. My daughter was just sitting on the floor looking like a ghost, and I couldn't say anything. I just had to listen to him talk about the divorce and what will be split and what not, like it was nothing. He was talking like the last 5 years were nothing and that it was just easy to move on. The best way to describe it was like he was returning something to a store. He left the house and I just sat on the couch. I don't know if I was crying, talking, or what. I can't remember much, as everything was muffled around me. Until my daughter started full-on crying, saying sorry, 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 over and over again, laying on the floor. I don't know how long I sat on the couch, but when I got up, I saw my husband's car still in the driveway. I looked out of the window, and I could see him full-on crying in the car. Seeing that completely broke me. My daughter and I haven't talked since my husband was here on Friday. We've not said a word to each other. My family members have showed up to the house to apologize because apparently my daughter has all of a sudden now cleared everything up, and she herself shared the video from the camera with the other family members. Every time they show up, I just close the door in their faces. I've gotten Facebook, Instagram, calls and text from them, and when I block them, they keep making new accounts or use different numbers. I don't want to lose my husband. I really don't. This is the first man I've ever met that has actually treated me with kindness, respect, and love, and now it is all over. I've tried to talk to him, and I've tried to convince him to go to counseling with me, but every time I tried, he sends me back, I can't take the risk. I've tried to meet him in person, but he just says that it won't be a good idea. I've gone over to his parents' house, but they refuse to let me see him. I've gone to his work to talk to him, but I was told that he was sent home by his boss. I truly don't know how to fix this. Having my daughter move out now won't work because I need to be out of the house as well. I don't want anything from my husband. I just want him. I haven't talked to a lawyer yet, but I don't think I can keep the house. He owned it before we moved into the house. I really just want to fix this. I still want to kick my daughter out of the house, but will he still give me a chance to fix it, even after what my husband said about me abandoning my daughter and not seeing me the same afterwards? I don't know anymore. Am I really going to lose a wonderful man? Edit. I forgot how Reddit fixates on one thing. The comment about the house I made. I have no intentions of trying to take his house or anything like that. It's not my house. I had questions in my previous post about the house, and I think I just answered it. I'm not going to try and take his house. He owns it and has owned it before we got together. I have no right to the house and will not try to take the house. I hope this clears it up. In the comments, Substantial Ad says, "It's over. Your daughter and your family almost destroyed his life. From his perspective, he's probably feeling somewhat grateful that she only destroyed his marriage. Listen, they phoned his work and leveled accusations. He got pulled into HR. He was sitting in his parents' house waiting to be arrested. That is hugely traumatizing. And now you phone him, show up at his parents' house, show up at his work? Sis, stop. It's over." There really is such a thing as a point of no return. My first wife left while I was out of town. She took the only car we had. No conversation, no chance for counseling, nothing. We were young, 22, and she just wanted a new life elsewhere. Problem was, all of the bills were in her name, and she literally didn't talk to me for 3 months. Not a word or text. I had my utilities cut off one by one because I couldn't pay for it, and they wouldn't take my money for the account because I didn't know the account numbers. After 3 months of spending part-time on the phone for every bill and utility service, not hearing from her even once, I had basically lived my life like she had just up and died. She came back 3 months later, and seeing her pull up was the worst feeling I've ever felt. I felt nothing. Like I wasn't happy to see her. I wasn't excited or even mad. She was just a person who put me through 3 months of hell for no reason, and I was just over her being in my life. The dude in OP's situation hit the same thing harder and faster. He became one person alone in the world, battling something that nobody else was. That kind of independence changes you. Vast Consideration says, "Wow, your daughter really messed up. She ruined your husband's life, she tanked your marriage, and she left you homeless. And screwed up her own education. Husband was paying for that too. I would let her go and just live alone. Learn how much work is required to provide what she effed up." Yeah, I agree with that. The daughter deserves to be dropped for what she did. I don't care that she's 19 years old. She had every opportunity to drop this. She is old enough to know the seriousness of accusations like this. She's old enough to know how people are going to react to this. You cannot claim ignorance to accusations of that degree. You cannot just say, "Oh, but you need to forgive me, it was a mistake." No, this is a mistake that you can't come back from. He's genuinely been traumatized by this. I can see why OP is trying to get him back and why she wants him back and why she'll do anything. Much like that first commenter, sis, it's over. Pack it up. He's not coming back. See things from his perspective. See what he went through. Sis, no one's taking you back when this happens. That is insane. Stop pestering him. Stop hounding his parents. Stop going to his work. What's wrong with you? This isn't about you anymore. It's not about what you want and your future. Think about what he's gone through. Like, leave him alone. I don't care if it's been 5 years of relationship. Respect his peace. I know it's not your fault, but come on. Nobody should be expected to rebuild that relationship if they don't want to. And if they're too traumatized from it, you shouldn't expect him to just ignore that trauma. That's crazy. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I hope that you can move on from this one. I don't expect a further update from this, but that was a wild situation that you guys put him through. But more so your daughter than you. Am I the asshole for telling my brother to stop coming unannounced and changing the locks? My brother Chris, 27 male, fake name, moved in with my boyfriend and I 7 years ago. Boyfriend is 28, OP is 26. We took pity on him after he was kicked out of my childhood home for drug use and was sleeping in his car. At first, Chris and my boyfriend got along great. After a few years of living together, Chris became more reclusive and distant from us both. Chores were not being done around the house, and I was getting sick of cleaning up after him and his negative attitude. 6 months prior to the end of our lease, I told Chris that he had to find another living situation. He did finally move out a few weeks prior to the end of our lease, and I thought we all agreed about splitting up shared appliances and valuables. One thing we did not discuss was our shared robot mopping device. We acquired this one at my grandmother's house a few years ago. She was moving and offered it to all three of us as she would not be using it. So we brought that little robot home. This thing is nothing fancy, just a small device that you fill with cleaning solution and attach disposable mop pads. Let me be clear, in the 4 years we've had this thing, Chris has not once paid for any replacement mopping pads. Never had even turned the thing on. It was always my boyfriend or I splitting up the cost of the pads and setting this thing up so we'd all wake up to clean floors downstairs. Chris hasn't returned his key because he's still slowly moving things out. It's been over a month now. He always shows up unannounced to our home to gather boxes and his belongings. Sometimes we wouldn't even realize he was there while we had been out. Last night, boyfriend was looking for our little robot friend as we had just gotten new pads delivered for it. Turns out, after going crazy looking for this thing and texting Chris, he did take it, claiming, yeah, he's mine. This was the last straw. We had been so accommodating to this man for years. I just can't believe that Chris had the audacity to take our beloved robotic cleaning friend without a word. I've let Chris know that we are no longer comfortable with him coming by unannounced, and that if he needs anything, we will look for it ourselves. I also said he can return his key to the office, and we will pick it up. His response? Stop being weird. I don't want any of your trash shit. I already had all of my useful grow equipment stolen anyways, so stop texting me before you make me mad. The grow stuff referred to here is indoor greenhouse and hydroponics, which was verbally agreed for an even split of materials since both Chris and boyfriend acquired the equipment together. Boyfriend ordered a camera that will be here tomorrow. I've contacted the leasing office to make them aware of the animosity between us and requested the locks to be changed. I just want to know, am I going too far? This robot is not at all expensive, but it's more about the principle to me. I feel disrespected. We all have to see each other next week for Thanksgiving, and I know that it will be awkward. OP, in response to a deleted commenter, says, he is no longer on the lease, only boyfriend and I signed the renewal documents. He's officially moved out more than a month ago now, and he has his own residence. Mundane Falcon asks, has he ever taken any responsibility for what got him kicked out? Or was it never his fault? What kind of housemate was he? Boyfriend was very patient because that's a lot of drama that no one needs. Have you apologized to your boyfriend for disrupting his home? And OP says, the main reason we wanted him to move out was space for my boyfriend and I as a couple. We're planning an engagement soon and want to move on with our own lives. He was quite weird to live with, especially towards the end. He didn't clean up the mess on the stove or coffee area after himself. I don't think he took out the trash once, and I had to ask. I've apologized to my boyfriend for letting this go on for so long, but I should really put a note or something together for him. Thanks. Wild Love Coffee Forever One says, not the arsehole. I hate it when someone needs help and then turns around and wears out their welcome, makes a nuisance of themselves, and or just ends up being completely unappreciative arsehole users, totally taking advantage of the person who was giving them shelter. You should have changed the locks the moment he left, and if he wanted his things, he'd have to call and make arrangements while you were both there. He's not cleaning up after himself. What does he want with a robot vacuum anyway? OP replies, he only wants the mopping robot now that he has hardwood floors. But we've always lived in a house where this robot was useful. He just didn't want to contribute to our shared space. He also had the audacity to say that his contributions to cleaning the floor was the robot itself, that was given to us and that he didn't pay for. House on Post asks, would you have given him the robot if he left a year earlier? Take the win. He's out of your house, just ignore him. Change the locks and enjoy your life. OP says, no, Chris never showed interest in the robot until it was convenient for him. I don't think he has any claim to it. Blue Rabbit asks, are you going to stage a robot rescue mission to get the mop buddy back? I am emotionally invested now. OP says, I don't know his exact current address, only the street name, but I'm thinking of sharing this post with him. Not sure if it'll change his mind though. Nerd is a verb says, not the asshole, but you are a pushover. If I were your boyfriend, then I would really resent you for moving your useless, mooching, thieving jerk of a brother into the shared home. Good luck with fixing that. And OP says, we've talked about it, and we were both at fault. Boyfriend offered in the first place, I didn't even ask. He was trying to show me how compassionate he is. I fully take the responsibility of not putting my foot down sooner. You know what? I think at this point, the past is the past. It's good that you take responsibility for it. I would just go extremely low contact if I was you in this situation and not worry about this stupid robot device. Who cares about that? Ignore it. Buy another one for yourself. Stop talking about it so much. I don't care about it. Why do you want to extend your suffering with this dickhead over something that is so meaningless? Stop bringing it up. You're the asshole to yourself for this one, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, you're not the asshole overall, but you're the asshole for continuing the suffering. And now, onto the updates. I decided to reach out to my brother and ask him nicely to bring our robot friend to Thanksgiving so we can bring him back home. Here's the messages so far. Me. I've gotten some time to think about this and gotten some different perspectives. I don't believe the robot belongs to you, and I'd really appreciate it if you could bring it with you to Thanksgiving so that we can bring it back home. I feel as though we've been very accommodating to you over the years that you've lived with us, and taking a shared appliance without any discussion is not only disrespectful, but shows your lack of consideration for us. So we'd like our robot back, since he really is ours after years of using and upkeeping without any help from you. Chris replies, I've gotten some time to think about it, and I want the TV from Grandma's as well, so go ahead and bring it over when you get a chance. Thanks. OP says, TV was also specifically given to us. I'm not sure why you think that's yours as well. Chris says, everything was given to you apparently. She asked me if I wanted the robot while I was in the kitchen, and I said yes. That's how it went. End of story. I don't give two shits what you think is yours or not. If I let you borrow something because I'm not using it, it doesn't make it yours. OP says, as I remember it, we were all there at the time that she offered. And I even tried to decline since it's still useful, but she insisted. It was given to all of us as a shared household. If you thought that it was yours, you should have had a discussion with us first before taking it while we were out. Chris says, You remember wrong, and I don't need to have a discussion about my own things. Not to mention boyfriend moving shady, taking shit out of the tent while I was gone, thinking that I wouldn't notice, lol. How is that any different? I didn't bring it up because I'm a bigger person and don't really care anymore. I want to put this terrible part of my life behind me, and if you don't leave it be, I'm gonna leave you behind as well. OP says, you and boyfriend had a discussion about splitting up the gross stuff, which he thought went amicably. You aren't being very mature, and I don't want someone that can't have a simple conversation about shared items in my life anyways. So I guess that's it. Looks like we will not be getting our little friend back. Thank you all for your support and interacting with this post. This was my second post ever, and to see it blow up was a crazy feeling. And now for the next update. Hello again. I just wanted to start by saying thank you for all of your judgments on my last post. I read every comment and gave each perspective some thought. Ultimately, you guys helped me gain the confidence to stand up for myself and ask for our robot back. I included my text conversation with my brother Chris in the comments of my last post. To summarize, I asked as politely as I could for our mopping robot back, as well as stated the reasonings why it belonged to us. Chris refused to see reason and pretty much said that he would be cutting me out of his life if I kept bringing this up. My wonderful boyfriend couldn't sit back and let him be disrespectful to us anymore. He had his own conversation with Chris, which for privacy reasons cannot be shared. Boyfriend ended up taking some of your guys' advice and threatened to reveal specific information to our family if the robot was not returned on Thanksgiving. This was last Thursday, so he had 1 week to make a decision. After a quiet week, I was preparing myself to drop a bomb on family dinner. But then, I went out to start warming up my car on Wednesday night, and there was a box on my front step. I didn't order anything, and as I picked up the box, I noticed that it wasn't sealed. Guys, our robot friend found his way home. I guess Chris decided that a mopping robot was not worth ruining his reputation with our family. He will not be bothering us anymore, and we will be low/no contact from now on. Now, a positive from all of this drama, boyfriend and I are utilizing our new home monitoring cameras to watch our pets. Our dogs and cats' activities while home alone are so entertaining, it's brought us a lot of joy to check in on them. Family photo will be posted in the comments of pets and robots. Have a great holiday season, everyone. And this is the family photo. This is the pets. Look at them, what cuties. In the comments, friend Lily says, glad you got it back, but does it still work? And OP says, it does. He's back to work. Seems like he wasn't used at all. No surprise. The same dirty pad was on from when we last used it. St. Alvis says, quote, I guess Chris decided that a mopping robot was not worth ruining his reputation with our family. I'm just shocked that a child already kicked out for drug use has a reputation to ruin. I'm guessing that family knows that he uses, but not that he's a grower/dealer. Yeah, I'm surprised he has a reputation as well, but you know what? If he saw reason, he saw reason. All's well that ends well in this one. I'd still be low contact with him after that. That's just some bullshit coming from his end. I know that OP's boyfriend was also growing there, so, it's not like they didn't know what he was like or who he is. That tells me that OP's boyfriend is a bit like the brother. Maybe that's bad news, maybe that's not, but it makes sense as to how he stuck around for so long and how they were able to be so, generous and patient with him. Because I wouldn't have patience for that bullshit, just let me tell you that. Thank you for the story, OP. Wasn't at all what I expected to happen, but I'm glad things resolved. You should have just left it be and bought the goddamn robot yourself, but hey, thanks for the story. Am I the asshole for ignoring the groomsmen? This happened at a wedding that I was a bridesmaid at a few weeks ago. I, 35 female, have never been married, no kids, and more than likely will be the last of my friend group to get married. I've been a bridesmaid too many times to count. Almost always, I get paired off with another single guy. My family and friends treat this as an attempt to hook me up with the other single guy. They think it would be so romantic if we tell our grandkids how we met at a wedding. I've never been interested in these guys. At the last wedding that I was at, I was paired off with the groom's 42-year-old stepbrother. Off the bat, I wasn't interested in Dave. If I were to see his profile on a dating app, I would immediately swipe left. Back to this wedding. I get through the ceremony and am now at the reception. I run into some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time, and I didn't know they would be in town. So we spent the night together, catching up and covertly watching a VGK game that someone was streaming on their phone. The bride came up to me and asked if I wanted to sit with Dave. He was alone at a table and wanted to get to know me better. I told her sorry, I wasn't interested, and went back to talking with my friends. If Dave wanted to talk to me, well, he's a grown man and can do it himself. I spent the night hanging out with my friends, having a great time, and didn't think much of it until a few weeks later. I see the bride at a party and she doesn't even greet me. She just tells me that I was a bitch for ignoring Dave. Apparently, he thought I was cute and wanted to get to know me better. He just couldn't because he struggles with social cues. At least I could have just saw him for a few minutes and have been nice to him. First off, I am sick of being nice just to make a man happy. I told her that I was just there to be a bridesmaid, not to be a minder for a middle-aged man. She still called me out for being a rude, stuck-up bee. Was I the asshole, or was the bride being out of line? One more thing, a few months before the wedding, I started to see a guy that I met at a conference. I never told anyone because I wasn't sure if the relationship would last at the time. I don't plan on telling anyone until we hit a milestone because there would be some pushback. It's an international long-distance relationship. Even if I was single, I am still not interested in Dave. In the comments, Youth in Asia 63 says, "Indeed, you were not, nor should have been, a minder for a middle-aged man. If Dave thought that you were cute and wanted to spend time with you, he could have opened his mouth and said so. Imagine if you ended up dating or marrying Dave. Then you could be his social coordinator and handholder, possibly for the rest of your life. Doesn't that sound like a plan?" If you've been told being a date with Dave was the bride's expectation of you as a member of the bridal party, you could have saved yourself some money and time and excused yourself from the whole event. Not the arsehole. OP replies, "If I had known that I would have to babysit an underemployed 42-year-old man who is twice my size, I would have dropped out a bridesmaid detail and then retired from the position." The bad agent says, "Not the arsehole, but the bride certainly is. You are not an escort meant to keep him company. Tell the bride to hire him one if she's so invested in him having company." Not the arsehole. Weddings are not a speed dating event. Wedding parties should not be created with the intent that the matched pairs would hook up. Haven't we seen posts where people are so freaked out that their significant other is paired with a single person and act like this means their significant other will cheat? Whatever promises the bride made Dave are her problem. You are not a party favor to be awarded. She can find someone else to pimp out. Yeah, I agree with that. What the hell's her problem? Like, Dave hasn't brought this up, Dave has kept this to himself, and it's obvious that he's upset in the shadows. But who cares about Dave? That's his problem. Dave, go find someone else to date you. And the bride needs to shut the hell up. The bride cannot see things from your perspective. She's like, I refuse to see how I would feel if I was in your shoes, and I expect you to give Dave a chance and go hold his hand. I could understand her position if you were interested in Dave and Dave didn't want to make the first move, but you wanted to, at least talk to him. If this were the case, I'd understand. But you have told her expressly, I have no interest, I don't want to go anywhere near him, and she refuses to listen to you. She won't even comprehend that no means no. And she's calling you a bitch for doing that multiple times. She's delusional, and I question whether you should even be interacting with this person anymore if she's going to continually attack you for something that is not your problem. And now, onto the updates. Hello. I made a post about a year ago about a wedding that I was at where I ignored the groomsmen who wanted to hook up with me. It didn't get much attention, but the comments were pretty life-affirming. I've been going through a pretty hard time for a few years now. It's frustrating to see your friends find that one and settle down while you're struggling to navigate your 30s alone. Especially when you're from a family and a part of the country where if a woman isn't married with kids by a certain age, something must be wrong with her. My family and friends mean well, but they don't always see how their actions hurt me. Dave did try to reach out to me after the wedding, but I just blocked him. I haven't seen him since, nor do I care to know what he's up to. I stopped talking to the bride. I really didn't appreciate the name-calling or being expected to babysit a middle-aged man. Anyway, I wanted to update on this story so I can close out that part of my life. After the wedding, I just made it clear to everyone that I am done being a bridesmaid. I am officially retired. If you're getting married, good for you. I'm not gonna be a bridesmaid. Not even for an all-expenses-paid bachelorette trip to Cancun. I think the fact that I was getting drunk and watching a hockey game with friends at the reception said it all. I'm just burned out from going to too many weddings. That retirement became official over the summer. I had mentioned that I was in a long-distance relationship. It didn't work out, but it did introduce me to a pretty big career opportunity. I spent a pretty big chunk of 2024 applying for this gig, waiting to see if I got hired, and when I did, close out my life in America. I'm now living in Australia, at a job that I love, and being able to be my own person. I cut my hair, I got some tattoos, I found a hobby I love, I have new friends who run on the same vibe. Australia mentioned? Hell yeah. Guys, chuck a prawn on the barbie for Australia. I don't think I'm gonna get married. If I do, that's great, but at my age, I don't think that kids are in my future anymore, and you know what? I'm starting to accept it. My family doesn't, but I have siblings with kids, so my parents can spoil them. I think I just needed to get away from a really restrictive place in order to find my own happiness. Thanks, guys. I really needed this advice in my life. Still love the VGK, and now I can rep for them from down under. In the comments, Competitive Proof says, "It's worth considering that you don't need a man to be a parent if you want kids. I'm typing this one-handed while nursing an IVF baby conceived with a sperm donor. I wanted the baby, but I couldn't find the partner. If you don't want a baby, great. If you do, a man isn't necessary. Women in the USA, Australia, and other, not all, parts of the world have options." Lyndon Lil Blue Balls says, "I love that she came back with making a middle-aged man happy isn't my effing job. The audacity is too much. For real, who calls another woman a bitch for saying a man should use his own mouth to speak? That other woman was and is an asshole." Future Direction says, "My daughter is 44, never married, no children. She's been in 4 long relationships. The longest was 9 years. She got pregnant with a 9-year partner very early on, but they lost the baby. They never conceived again, and it turned out that he had a very low sperm count. She's now happily living in a 1-bed cottage which she owns outright. There is just her cats, plus the wildlife in the river at the end of her garden. She even has otters to watch. Her neighbors hate them because they steal the goldfish from his pond. She just says that she thinks they wanted a change from trout. And much like OP needed a change from the trout of America to the goldfish of Australia, I welcome you to this glorious country." All's well that ends well with that one, I think. It was the best move to cut her off because someone that calls you a bitch for, not talking to a man twice your weight who you had no interest in is not a good friend and is not a good person. She does not have your best interests at heart. She's just trying to force someone into his life, and that's not fair to either of you. That bridesmaid is delusional and insane and definitely earns the title of arsehole. I'm very much glad for OP for moving on from all of that to greener pastures. And thank you for sharing your story with us. I'd love to know what you guys have to think of this one down in the comments below. Our next post is by user ThrowRAVK, and it's titled, "Am I the arsehole for cancelling on our family cruise?" So, my parents wanted to do a cruise for the holidays. They invited me, 25 female, my boyfriend, 27 male, my brother, 28 male, and his girlfriend, 26 female. My brother, let's call him James, has always been the golden child. For some backstory, back in high school, when James was discovered to be selling pills, he was just going through a phase. Meanwhile, when I got caught smoking weed, my parents threatened to kick me out. James lost his scholarship and dropped out of college 3 different times, but he's still perfect. I graduated a semester late, and I didn't try hard enough. James still lives in the state where he attended college, and I live in my home state near my parents. He doesn't work, he's not currently in school. My parents buy him flights all the time to come visit, but don't buy me a flight to go see him or go anywhere else. My parents send him money for rent and life necessities. He bought a $2,000 dog recently with that money. When I first got a big job at the age of 22, my parents immediately kicked me off their insurance since I had the option of benefits. James was on their insurance until he turned 26. Last year, I got laid off and moved back in with my parents to save money. When I got my new job, my parents told me that I needed to pay $10,000 in back rent, which was never discussed previously. I did finish paying it off and recently moved in with my boyfriend. This has been a pattern my whole life. James gets everything handed to him, and I have to work my ass off. So now to the cruise. My parents said they wanted to do this, and bought tickets for themselves, James, and his girlfriend. They told me to get my own tickets since I have a well-paying job. I was super upset and told them that it wasn't fair that I was the only one who had to buy their own tickets. My boyfriend couldn't come due to holiday plans with his own family. My parents said that I was acting spoiled and that green wasn't a good look on me. That's such salt in the wound, Jesus. I am so tired of hearing that phrase at this point. They said it's not like I had to get a big, nice room, since we'd be outside for the majority of the time anyway, which is true, but then why get James a nice room? I decided that I had enough and I wasn't going. But here's where I may be the asshole. I let them continue thinking that I was for months, and then, on the night before they left, they said to get to their house by 8 a.m. so we could start the drive to the port. At 8:30 that day, they start messaging me asking where I am. I texted them, well, since you didn't want to put the effort in to have me join you, I'll be attending my boyfriend's Thanksgiving instead. Have a nice trip with your favorite child, and then I muted the chat. I kinda dig it, that's kinda boss. I talked to some friends about this, and some said that it was petty of me to cancel with no warning, and others said that I should have sucked it up and gone, since I would have had fun when I got there. They've been on the cruise for a couple of days now, and I'm starting to regret how I handled things. Yeah, I probably would have had fun, and it's not like I couldn't afford the tickets. I also could have handled the delivery better, but at the same time, I'm so sick of them treating me like this. So, am I the asshole for cancelling on our family vacation? In the comments, Kazoo says, wait, did I read it correctly that they charged you $10,000 back rent, which had never been discussed prior, and you paid it? Not the asshole, but I would have gone low contact with them, and definitely not even contemplated going on a trip with them. Save that for people that enjoy you, OP. That's when OP should have gone low or no contact. OP needs to make sure that they are never in a position to rely on their parents again. They obviously care significantly less than their golden child. I can't wait until they're elderly and wondering why their golden child doesn't really help them, and OP hasn't contacted them in years. It's gonna be rough on them at that point. And when they die, they'll leave everything to her brother because he needs it and she can take care of herself. Her parents are awful people. Well, the sad thing is, this is not an uncommon situation. My brother's wife's family is like this. Her drug addict golden boy brother gets all of the attention and financial support from their father because he's having a hard time, mostly of his own making. But now since their mother passed, she's expected to take care of the old man now that he has dementia. As an outsider looking in, it is really unfair. Not the arsehole. It's understandable that you're frustrated by the unequal treatment and lack of consideration. You have a right to stand up for yourself and set boundaries with your family. Frankly, I'd go low contact. They keep you around because once they run out of money funding the golden child, they'll be turning to OP chanting, "But family helps each other." Agree. I'm willing to bet that as her parents age, it'll become her responsibility to make sure that their needs are met if she doesn't stand up for herself now. James the golden child will suddenly be MIA. I agree with the sentiment put forward by these commenters. You do have to, make a stand, and that $10,000 of back rent should have been the place to make that stand. And I don't fault OP for that. That is just ignorance. And it's okay to be ignorant because life doesn't come with a handbook that tells you everything that you need to do and everything that you need to look out for. You learn these things through your mistakes. And it's unfortunate that OP had been conditioned throughout their life not to recognize that $10,000 back rent out of nowhere is extreme manipulation. That's why you have to come to places like Reddit that are impartial, that will give you advice for what is objectively okay and what is objectively not. And I understand it's biased. Yes, Reddit doesn't get it right all the time, but Reddit will tell you, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't do that. What they're doing to you is wrong. Please readjust your mental. You need to start recognizing that this is going down a very dark path for you. Set boundaries now so that you're not taken advantage of in the future when the golden child disappears and they're relying on you for their retirement. So given all of that backstory and given how OP has been treated, no, not the asshole for how you went about cancelling the family cruise. They're not allowed to continue neglecting you, continue relying on you, scamming you, gaslighting you, saying that, oh no, he deserves it better, your version of reality is different to ours, you just need to accept that. No, I don't care what she's done here. She should have cut them off such a long time ago. They deserve this, and they deserve her cutting them off completely after this cruise. They are honestly taking the piss. And now, onto the updates. First off, hi everyone. Sorry for posting and then dropping off the face of the earth. I wrote the original post at work during my break, and then as soon as the day ended, my boyfriend and I headed up to the cabins his family rented for the holidays. I wanted to be fully present with them, so I didn't actually have a chance to check this until today, and I can't believe how many people chimed in. I appreciate everyone who took the time to share their thoughts, even though I wasn't able to go through all of them. I tried reading some comments, but got overwhelmed by the sheer amount there was, and gave up after scrolling for 20 minutes. So instead of responding to people individually, I'll try to address some common things I saw in the comments. If there is anything I missed addressing, let me know, and I'll try my best to provide an answer. Obviously, I'll start with the $10K in back rent. To me, the number itself wasn't the issue. I mean, yeah, it definitely is a bit higher than I would have liked, but not completely unreasonable. OP, it's objectively completely unreasonable. Be for real for 1 second. No one charges back rent like that. No. For the amount of time that I lived there, it's not like I would have been able to rent my own place at a cheaper price. And if I hadn't moved in with them, I would have completely depleted my savings and probably gone into debt. While I was laid off and looking for a new job in my field, I had a serving job and did some freelance work as well. So I was contributing to groceries, but not paying rent or utilities. Because of that, I understood why my parents wanted help once I was in a position to do so. I just wish they had defined that expectation from the beginning instead of springing it on me as a surprise. I paid it because I know it was an inconvenience for my parents to have me stay so long, especially during some home renovations, and it didn't feel worth the pushback if I refused. I know it would have turned into a whole big issue, and it just felt easier to pay the money. Yes, I probably have some pushover tendencies that I need to address. Probably? Luckily, I'm in a well-paying field. I'm a technical writer, so once I got my new position, I was able to pay my parents back in about 6 months while also saving up to move out. The timeline for anyone curious is, I was laid off in January of last year. I used my savings to pay rent until my lease was up in June, and then I moved in with my parents. I lived with my parents from June last year to September this year, when I moved in with my boyfriend. I got my current job in May, which is when my parents told me that they wanted back rent and rent moving forward until I moved out. They said that it was helped to motivate me to get back on my feet. Bullshit, such bullshit. So, not all of it was back rent technically, but I just used that term to try to be more concise. By the time I moved out, the total amount that I had owed added up to the 10K, and I had already paid off most of it. I also saw a couple of comments about pursuing legal action against my parents, but I don't think that's worth it or even possible. We never had a written contract, and I didn't argue against paying it. I didn't want them to be able to hold that over me. Going through any legal issue would just dredge the whole thing up again, and I'd rather not do that. It's paid now, so at least it's over with. In the future, I know I should probably be less willing to give in to their demands. It's just difficult when things have been this way my whole life, and my experiences have shown me that any refusal paints me as ungrateful in their eyes. I try so hard to be perfect because I just want them to treat me with the same care and support as they do with James. The worst part is, James and I were super close growing up. When we were kids, we hung out all the time. He was the one who taught me how to ride a bike. He stood up for me when I was getting bullied. I don't think he's a bad person at all. He just never learned to stand on his own 2 feet. Our relationship is strained now because he doesn't get why I have issues with our parents. I miss the brother that I would stay up playing RuneScape with. I'm pretty sure that he fully buys into the idea that he needs extra help since he's always gotten it. He doesn't know how to do or expect anything else. At least he's still nice to me though, but he just refuses to see the differences in how we're treated, and he basically wants me to just suck it up and be part of the family. Sadly, all his support just disappeared once it came to issues with our parents. I hope James gets some distance from them one day and that we can reconnect. I don't want our relationship to keep suffering because of this. Sorry to get sappy for a second, but back to the comments. Another thing that I saw some people ask is why I didn't tell them sooner that I was cancelling. I know that was a petty move on my part, but had I told them earlier, they would have spent those months trying to convince me to go and insulting me if I continued to refuse. It seemed like such a hassle, and the way I did it was much easier. And yeah, maybe this is shitty of me, but I did get some satisfaction out of it. It felt good to treat them at the same level that they treat me. Besides, it's not like it actually affected their trip. They still went, just without me. Many of the comments brought up the idea of going low contact or no contact with my family, and it's something that I've now been considering. My boyfriend is supportive of this decision since he has seen firsthand how my parents are. I'm sure my friends will be supportive as well if I explain the full story. Most of them have never met my parents, and I've tried not to get into the whole family dynamic with my friends since it's depressing for me to talk about, and I also didn't want to come off just as whining all the time. Prior to this, they've only heard some small complaints here and there. With all of that out of the way, here is what happened since my last post. My boyfriend and I got to the cabin late Wednesday night. I gave his mother a bouquet of her favorite flowers, and she loved them. We had a quick glass of wine while talking with his family before heading to bed. I was still a bit uncertain of my decision, so I probably wasn't as peppy as usual, but they didn't seem to mind. That night, I made a promise to myself that I would put my own family issues aside during the trip and just focus on having a good time with my boyfriend's family, who have always been so gracious to me. On Thursday, we woke up early and helped his mum with some preparation for the food and set the table. After, we played some cornhole with his cousins and sadly lost due to my complete lack of athletic ability. The Thanksgiving meal itself was delicious, and his mum is such a good cook. Everyone was sweet to me and made me feel so welcome as part of the family, which helped me feel much better about my decision to spend the holidays with them. Towards the end of the night, his mum even said to me that she knows it is ultimately up to my boyfriend, but she hopes that I can join the family for real someday. I told her that I would be honored if that happens, and we hugged. I really hope it will. I love my boyfriend so much, and I want to spend the rest of my life with him. His family is also an incredible bonus. I had such a wonderful time on Thanksgiving and enjoyed the rest of the weekend as well. We went on some great hikes, hung around by the bonfire, played board games, and watched movies. My boyfriend also spent some time looking after his little nephew, and watching them play with Legos together definitely gave me some slight baby fever, though that's not something that I want to act on for at least a couple of years. We got back yesterday afternoon, and I'm already missing everything. It was genuinely a blast, and there was no family drama, which made my family seem like even more of a mess. I feel like I'm rambling a bit now, and honestly probably have been the whole time, but I'm just so excited to share what a good time I had during the holiday and that I definitely made the right decision. Unfortunately, this update isn't entirely positive. I wish it could be. My parents reached out last night, and they still weren't happy about my choice. I guess the sea air and unlimited drinks didn't do enough to relax them. My dad sent a passive-aggressive text of cruise pictures with a message that said, "Sad that you chose not to be with your family in such beautiful places, ... God, I hate the ... Do not hit me with the triple dots. And I sent back a picture from my trip with my boyfriend's family and said, "Looks like you guys had a good time." So did we. Then, my mum called and she said that she hoped I regretted missing out on a great family vacation and spoiling their memory due to a petty grudge against my brother. I told her that my issue wasn't with James, but rather their unfair preferential treatment between the two of us. My mum said that I was the one being unfair by comparing our situations, since James needs help while he figures out his direction in life, and I've always been more independent. I told her the only reason that's true is because they never truly allowed me to depend on them. She said she wasn't going to apologize for raising a self-sufficient daughter, and that I should either grow up and be grateful for everything they've done, or leave them alone for good and break their hearts all at once, instead of doing it piece by piece. She called me cruel for dangling the hope of a wonderful holiday, only to snatch it away at the last second. Even though they seem to be just fine without me there based on the photos that my dad sent and what they posted on social media. I was really upset by this point, and pointed out multiple examples of how they prioritize James, just hoping that I could finally make her understand how growing up like this has affected me. My mum said that I had a lot of nerve putting their parenting under a microscope when I have no children myself, and have never had to make tough choices. I had enough of the conversation, and said I guess I'll just leave you guys alone like you want, since I'll never be enough for this family anyway. I hung up and started crying, but my boyfriend was really supportive as always, and we spent the rest of the night eating ice cream and watching the Hunger Games to cheer me up. I absolutely love the series, and am so excited for Haymitch's movie to come out. It was weird to go back to work after everything and act like nothing was the matter, but I think it was also a good distraction. Since I chose my boyfriend's holiday plans instead of my family's, I actually came back feeling mostly refreshed. Besides the events of last night, instead of drained like I most likely would have been after the cruise. I haven't heard anything from my parents yet, but I have a feeling that they're just bluffing. I'm sure once they need something they'll reach out, or they'll probably try and smooth things over by Christmas so they don't have to explain the situation to our extended family. I haven't decided yet if I'll be open to reconciling. On one hand, I know I deserve better than to be treated as a burden and an afterthought while doing so much for them. I'm tired of trying to live up to their expectations, and I'm not optimistic about their behavior ever changing. But on the other hand, they are my family, and it's just so difficult to fully walk away. I just want to feel the love and acceptance from my own family that I get from my boyfriend's family. Why is it so hard for them to treat me like I matter? I'm also worried that if I don't make nice with them, they'll twist the story to make me seem like the problem, and my extended family will be mad at me too. There are people I like within my family, but my parents have a lot of influence over everyone's opinions. I don't know if it's worth putting up with them to at least keep some ties to my family, or if it would be better to accept the loss and move on from a dynamic where I am clearly not appreciated. I want to keep my brother at least, but maybe I'm just holding on to the past, and that version of James doesn't exist anymore. I hope that's not true. I just don't know how to get through to him since he is so brainwashed by my parents and thinks they can do no wrong. I'm not sure if I'll ever truly get my brother back. I've got some big things to think about now, and I don't know if I'm ready to make a major change to my life. I do believe, though, that I would feel much freer and lighter if I at least distance myself from them, and maybe even cut contact entirely. I guess I'll just have to see what happens. I'm sure I already know the answer to this, but is it stupid to still hold out hope that things can work out? In the comments, 41 Flavors and Then Some says, I feel sad for OP. She wants a family that doesn't exist. If James wasn't completely worthless, then he would rein in their parents, but he's just enjoying life on their dime. OP ruined nothing. If her parents weren't so selfish and biased, things would be fine. I hope that OP has lots of good therapy so she can have an extra shiny spine. She'll need it when her parents tell her that they're entitled to her money when they are old and James is nowhere to be found. Or is, but we can't have Whittle Jamesy caregive. It would be difficult and stressful. Cynical Mage replies, OP's going to be an amazing mother, if that becomes her path, because she has clarity. She has been raised with a perfect blueprint of what not to do. She'll do fine in life. She is strong. She is beginning to realize her own worth. She can hold her head high, and one day she'll witness karma coming home to roost. 41 Flavors and Then Some replies, she will definitely witness karma. People like James never repay their parents, either monetarily or with time and care. If she does have kids, that would most likely be another way for her parents to let her down. They'd be all about playing grandparents until James had kids. Then suddenly, it'd be no time or effort for OP's kids. Screw that. And Cynical Mage replies, no way she'll let them be involved enough to do damage. She wised up before having them. Later in life, her kids will have questions, because mine certainly did. But we explained in age-appropriate language that my parents were not good people. And as they grew up, we could kind of trickle-truth it. Mine are almost all adults, and now are fully aware of what we shielded them from, and it's okay. James, well, that can go one of two ways. All depends when mummy and daddy either run out of assets or become a burden. They're in for a shock of their lives, just to put it mildly. Yeah, I don't really have too many words to close this out with. I know that it's kind of on the shelf and not exactly concluded, but in its own way, I think that is a conclusion that OP has given us. You know, she's at a crossroads right now. Does she cut them off or does she not? It seems like she's going to go a bit of a middle path and keep them at an arm's length. I'm sure there's people listening right now that have been through similar experiences and have chosen the path of keeping your family at an arm's length so that you still have access to your extended family and you don't get completely outcast. I don't see it going particularly well. I'm hopeful that things can work out for them in the future, but I'm really just not sure. You know, they've conditioned her this much. They expect her to act a certain way, and when she doesn't, you see how they react. And if they continue not getting their way into the future, I just think they're going to poison the extended family against OP, spin a narrative, and have the entire family coming down on her until she either bends to their will or she leaves. She just cuts everyone off and just makes a new life or continues her life with her new in-laws, with her new family. That's my prediction. I would love to know what you guys think of that prediction down in the comments. Is it accurate, or do I have no life experience? Maybe. I don't know. It's just that I feel like once people are grounded in their ways, especially when they enable the son, OP's brother in this instance, it's gone on for so long, I don't see it ever changing. They're going to die never having self-reflected that they did wrong. Anyway, I'll leave it there. My best friend is barely talking to me after we shared an intimate moment. I've known my friend since middle school. We were neighbors and went to the same schools, and we've always been super close. Until very recently, there were absolutely no romantic feelings or attraction between us. He's always just been my friend. A few months ago, we had a falling out. He was dating this crazy girl who was treating him like shit. She was super controlling over him. We pretty much never saw each other after they started dating. He called me one night to complain about her not giving him any space, and I told him exactly what I thought about her. I did not like her. She was rude, and he could definitely have been doing better. When I told him all of that, he blew up at me. He said I was meddling in his relationship and that I didn't know her. He called me some pretty harsh words and told me I was jealous. I had no feelings for him at the time other than seeing him as my best friend. I wasn't jealous, I just missed my friend and thought he should be treated better. After that call, we didn't talk much at all for months until 2 weeks ago. He stopped hanging around our friend group when I was there, and he didn't return my messages. Well, they broke up, and while he didn't message me right away, he eventually started sending me stuff on Instagram. Just memes and reels. Nothing much, and we didn't talk about his breakup. That is until last week, when he called me and apologized for just falling off with me. He told me that I was right about her controlling him, and he said that she didn't want him talking to me because she thought I wanted him. We made up, and I met him at his place to hang out for the first time in months. When we were hanging out, we were getting really physically close in a way that we had never done before, and we ended up hooking up. I never thought that would happen with him. I think maybe not seeing him for a while made me miss him to the point that new feelings developed. Like an hour after, he told me that we shouldn't have hooked up, that I was like a sister to him, and that he wasn't attracted to me at all. We got into an argument, and I ended up leaving without staying the night. Now we're back to not really talking at all. He'll send a funny thing he saw on Instagram every other day, but he won't discuss anything with me at all. I don't know what to do. He's been my best friend forever, and now we've had 2 back-to-back falling outs. I don't know how I feel about him, but I don't want to lose him from my life. Do I just give this time? Do I call him and insist that we talk about what happened? This is really tearing me apart. In the comments, Daegu says, "This guy doesn't seem like a very good friend, or a good boyfriend. Goes and does the exact thing that his ex was worried about, and then manipulates his best friend into taking her virginity and gets mad at her for it. Yikes. I hope OP sees how bad that looks." Mike Sanders says, "I'm not one to assume, but I'll throw 3 guesses out. 1. He's holding out hope that girl will come back, but sleeping with you may piss her off, and screws that. 2. He really doesn't know how to process this, and what the future may hold for you two, if anything. Or finally, 3. He really wanted sex, and friendship be damned you were there. Now he's post-nut and pissed off. Just my guesses." OP replies, "One of the few things he said after that is he was just horny after his breakup. But we've known each other for most of our lives. I don't think he would be that whatever with me." Simple Advisor replies, "Yikes. So he used you for that, only to turn around and say he was never really attracted to you at all. That's kind of hurtful. I don't know, I'd be hurt if my friend just randomly used me to get off right after breaking up with his girlfriend. Honestly, and now it makes it look like she was right all along." OP replies, "Maybe she was. I love him, but I don't know how. I've never really been all that sexual or romantic with people. He said so many sweet things that day, so many compliments, and during it told me he wouldn't ignore me for another girl again. It just feels like I was used, but I know he's better than that. He's a great guy." Pedo Weedo replies, "He used you for sex, dude." Yeah, he used you for sex, OP. Like, come on. If it looks bad and it sounds bad, it's probably bad. And I think it is bad. Are we not allowed to just be honest with you and say it like it is? What he did was wrong. His reaction to this was wrong. He's not a good person. You should probably stop talking to him. If he doesn't, confess his sins and try to make up for it. And now, onto the update. So a lot happened in just a few days when I last posted. First, thanks for all the feedback. I was having a hard time admitting that I was mistreated, and it's pretty clear that I've been in denial with my feelings for my friend for a long time. A few comments in particular forced me to see how obviously jealous I had been of his exes. I didn't like the last girlfriend because he was spending more time with her than me. She had a point about me, and I really don't blame her for not wanting me around him as much as I was before. He texted me Friday night and asked to be able to take me out to make up for all that had happened. I agreed, but I told him that we were really going to need to talk about the past few months, and especially about the night we slept together. He took me out to a really nice place, and he immediately apologized for a lot. He said he was sorry for ditching me for months to just message me, sleep with me, and then ditch me again. He apologized for being so cold after taking my virginity and not checking in to make sure that I was okay. He also said that he was sorry for using me for years, that he had been keeping me around for emotional support while not really returning to me with the same support. He confessed that the last relationship ended because they were both cheating on each other, and that he knew he was a serial cheater. He'd asked how I was doing since we hooked up, and it was hard for me to answer. I can admit now that I wanted it for a long time. I remember wishing he would ask me to dances when we were kids. Our friends had teased me about it, but I always shrugged it off. I told him that I was hurt that the guy that I've known for most of my life took my virginity and then told me that I wasn't attractive. Having that happen was one of the most hurtful things I have ever experienced, and I felt betrayed and used by my best friend. He again apologized and said that he's been attracted to me for a long time and that he's wanted us to be more for years. He said that I deserved better than that. He also said that he still had a great time with me that night and that it was better than he had always thought it would be. Then he asked if I wanted to try being more than friends, and I told him that I wanted to, but I didn't know if it would be a good idea. In this conversation, he told me that he was a serial cheater, and I kept thinking about all the comments on here telling me not to trust his sweet words and that his actions speak louder. I asked why he thought he would treat me any better than the other women that he's been with and treated terribly, especially after treating me terribly too. That made me cry a bit, and he said that I mattered more than the other ones, that what we had was more special, and that his family, who I said in the comments have been like my surrogate family, always thought we would get together. I have never really seen him cry before. He's always been guarded and wanting to seem tough. It was new to see him so vulnerable. I told him that if we were to start dating, I'd want to take a few steps back and start slow. I'm not going to just jump back in bed with him. He needs to prove to me that he can do better. The rest of the date went well. He took me to my favorite dessert place before dropping me off at my place. He didn't try to convince me to let him come inside for any more, but he gave me a very sweet kiss. I think I'm going to try to make this work. I love him. He's been my favorite person for years. I want to be able to trust him, but I'm going to make him prove to me that he means all of the things he said to me tonight before I let him get too close. In the comments, quote, he said that I mattered more than the other ones, that what we had was more special. Oof. This screams to me that he does not get it. This is not a man who recognizes that what he did in the past was bad, and so he wants to do better with you. I hope you go into this knowing he is likely to repeat the same mistakes he's made in the past. It seems like he hasn't done any work to own his own part in it and prevent the past from repeating, since it's just a thing that happened to him, and it's different with you. Editing after reading some of your comments on your first post, I'm speaking to you as a fellow neurodivergent woman. I know it's harder for us to make and keep friends, and the ones we do have, we cling to, but sometimes those friendships start getting too one-sided, and we stick around too long and let ourselves be treated poorly because we cling to an idealized version of how things were. OP replies, I did tell him that me being different to him shouldn't matter. He just shouldn't treat women like that. I've clung to him for so long. He's sometimes the only person I can trust. I don't really expect him to change overnight. I have my doubts that he'll be able to do right by me, but he promised me he would try, and I feel like I owe him a chance. I guess I feel that since we have more history together, he would want to treat me better. I've wanted him since we were teenagers. It's just that he seemed so sincere. He was crying, and I've never really seen him do that outside of a loss in the family. I can't stand seeing him hurt like that. I just wanted to hold him and make sure he was okay. About if they used a condom, I did not. I wasn't expecting it to happen at all. I kinda thought that I would never have sex, especially not with a guy. I'm gonna need everyone to stand back at least a few meters. We are all bearing witness to a canon event unfolding in front of our eyes. You cannot get in the way of this one. You cannot stop it. It is pivotal in OP's growth as a human being. They have entered the mess around phase. Now we have to leave them to their own devices when they find out. Them entering the find out phase is going to be a rocky time for them. Oh my god. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I wish you nothing but the very best of luck going forward. Our next post is by user smgifts_a, titled, "Am I the asshole for immediately donating the gifts my stepmother bought for my children? I, 34 female, have no contact with my stepmother Mary. Long story short, not worth explaining. Edit, I loosely explained in a comment. It's been 5 years since I cut her off from my and my family's lives. As such, she hasn't seen my son, 8 male, since he was 3 years old, and she's never met my daughter, 4 female. Throughout the years, she's attempted to contact me and my kids several times. My father used to help her sometimes. He would tell me how awful she felt, how much she wanted to meet my daughter, and that the kids needed their grandma. I've never considered her as a grandparent, as both my mother and mother-in-law are active in their lives. Several fights later, my father apologized and stopped assisting her, but Mary still tries to get in touch with me every now and then. I always state that I have no interest in seeing her or allowing her to be a part of my children's lives. My son's birthday was in September. The day of, neither of my kids were home, a large box was delivered to our building. I opened it up to find more than a dozen new toys for my children, along with a note that read, "Grandma Mary loves you both." As I later found out, she had bought the toys on a recent trip to the US. I couldn't think of that as anything besides a manipulation tactic. My children are barely aware that she exists. Why would she send them both a box full of toys on my son's birthday? I also think that she planned the delivery for a time that she thought the kids would be home so that they would see the toys immediately. Either way, my husband and I decided not to keep any of the toys. We donated them all throughout October. The kids never saw any of them. Last week, my father called me. He said Mary had just told him about the toys and wanted to know whether the kids liked them. I told him the truth, and we had an argument. My father called me cruel and ungrateful for what I did. He said he understands that Mary and I don't get along, but she still cared enough to spend hundreds of dollars on a loving gesture for my children, and the least I could have done was let them know about it. I honestly couldn't imagine keeping those toys, but I'd be lying if I said the amount of money spent on them didn't make me feel guilty. Am I the asshole? Additional information from OP regarding Mary's behaviors. Well, to name a few things she did, Mary tried to convince my father to make me stop eating dinner so that I would lose weight. She made several detrimental comments about my body while I was going through puberty. Whenever me or my sister got sick, she would claim that we were faking it. Neither of us ever faked an illness. I once got sick while home alone with her, and it took me throwing up 3 times before she agreed to call my father. On one occasion, my sister got sick and she pretended to get sicker. Whenever my sister and I failed to accomplish something, she would insult our intelligence. Whenever we succeeded, she said that we had gotten lucky. We weren't allowed to say anything even remotely negative about Mary, or she would have a breakdown. I once said that she looked more like one movie character than another, and she started crying. I was 12, and this was the same woman who implied that I was fat on an almost daily basis. I don't like talking about this, though therapy has been helping, which is why I didn't give examples originally. OP provides more details on why Mary did not deserve a second chance of having a relationship with her. The long story is essentially my entire childhood. Having had her in my life when I was a child, I don't think Mary should be around any children, period. She was horrible to me when I was young, because I refused to pretend that she was my mother. I've been in therapy for years, and it's still hard to talk about how she treated me. I feel like allowing her to be a part of my adult life at all was already giving her a second chance. I cut her off for good when she threw a tantrum because I hadn't taught my son to call her grandma. His wife treated me like crap for almost 15 years, and I never cut him off. It wasn't a gesture of goodwill, it was an attempt to gain access to my children, and I didn't throw it back in their face. If my father hadn't asked, I probably wouldn't have said anything. In the comments, not the asshole. Mary knew exactly what she was doing, as she's been doing this stuff for at least 5 years. What you decided to do with the toys a stranger attempted to give your children was donate them back to people in need. Some might throw them away, but you put the toys to good use. It might be time to go low contact with your dad if he can't respect your boundaries as well. No contact with your stepmom. Tell your father if her behavior does not stop immediately, then you'll have to reconsider how much contact you'll have with him. Keep protecting your children. OP replies, I used to be low contact with my father. When I cut contact with Mary, she spent a few months trying to use him as a messenger. He's since agreed to stop, and our relationship has been improving, but I do intend to proceed with caution if we can't sort this out. She's also had her mother call me to tell me off 3 times, and her brother once. I've blocked them both. Can OP get a restraining order or something similar to keep Mary away from her and her family? OP says, not easy to obtain in my country. I also don't think it's necessary. Her family lives in a different state, and Mary hasn't been near me in 5 years. Can OP return the toys back to Mary? None of us live in the US, where Mary bought the toys, so returning them would be more trouble than it's worth. We donated the toys to different institutions and charities around our country. No, I don't think you're the asshole for donating the gifts. Like, the more you gave context, the more you gave backstory to explain her behavior, the more I hate Mary, and she deserves more than just you donating the gifts. She deserves no contact from you. She's a terrible piece of shit person who will abuse children if allowed into their lives. She is going to repeat the same bullshit that she did to you to your kids. And you're more than right for blocking that from happening, for not respecting her, for keeping her the hell away from you guys, because you know how much damage she is capable of doing, and your dad continues to enable it. Your dad does not respect you. Your dad is a pussy. If he had any respect for himself, he would have left her the moment he saw the bullshit that she was throwing on you. But he is one of these spineless, coward partners that allows their children to be abused by step-parents. It's unfortunate that we live in a world where people like that exist, and they are just as bad as the abusers, because they see the abuse happening, but they value their partner more than they value the mental well-being of their own children, the future of their child, just having security at all. No, that's out the window. I don't know why you keep your father in your life. I don't know why you keep this stepmother in your life. They are not good for you. And now, on to the update. Hey guys, thank you for your input. Many of you stated that you wouldn't be able to make any judgment without knowing why I have no contact with Mary, and I think that's completely fair. I explained it better in the comments, and I recommend reading them, but Mary was awful to me when I was young. I loathe talking about it, though therapy has been helping with that, but it stemmed from the fact that I wouldn't allow her to be a second mother to me. I went into low contact with her in my early 20s, and she would still treat me like crap whenever I saw her. When my son was born, Mary begged me to give her a second chance. She apologized for upsetting me and promised she had changed. I warned her that if she ever overstepped or even remotely hinted at going back to her old ways, that she would never see me or my family ever again. To be honest, I'm surprised that she lasted 3 years. I didn't clarify that in my original post because not only is this something I have trouble talking about, but I also didn't think that it was relevant. I was asking about the donations, not whether I was justified in cutting ties with Mary, but I do agree that it's best to have the complete picture before making judgment calls, so I apologize for withholding that. Another thing that I didn't mention is that Mary never had children of her own, and my only sister is child-free. My kids are the only grandchildren in the family, which I think is why Mary wants to see them so badly. Anyway, I went through your comments and organized a list of things that I wanted to say to my father. I thought about making one for Mary as well, but I doubt she would actually listen to it. I spoke to my father on Saturday. He said that he talked with his wife. Apparently, Mary bought the gifts because it broke her heart to be unable to watch my kids grow up, and she hoped the toys would at least let them know how much she loved them. My father also said that Mary told him about the gifts. He's insistent he had no idea. Oh my god. Because it had been a while, and me and the kids hadn't thanked her yet. My husband and I have our children say thank you through voice messages whenever they get a gift from someone who isn't nearby. We've done that for my father before, so I think that's what Mary was expecting. I explained that it didn't matter how thoughtful he thought Mary's gesture was. When I cut ties with her, I cut her off completely. That means no gifts, no phone calls, and no contact with my children, directly or not. She can claim to love them all she wants, but she will never have any involvement in their lives. We had another argument, but I put my foot down. I told my father that if he ever attempts to assist her in any way or brings up Grandma Mary to my children, he will never see me again. I will allow him to be a part of his grandkids' lives, but he needs to accept that his wife won't be. Ultimately, my father agreed, but I intend to watch him closely from now on. I don't want to cut contact with him, but this will be his final chance. If he screws this up, he's done. While I'm not 100% confident that this will last, I'm still happy with this outcome. I've been going through a fairly stressful time at work, and it feels great to have this weight off my shoulders now. More importantly, I feel like I'm well equipped to deal with whatever comes next. I don't intend to write any further updates. Once again, thank you. In the comments, Mad Pirate Bippy says, "Not the asshole. If a woman abused you as a child, you know she can abuse your kids. Good job sticking to your guns and not letting her get her claws in your kids. Your dad is in a tough spot between you and his wife. I'm gonna bet mostly because of her, and I hope he realizes just how serious you are about this and stays involved with your kids. Otherwise, the trash took itself out. He didn't protect you against your stepmom as a child, and this is the consequence of him picking a woman over his own kids." OP replies, "I think I've managed to make it clear that when I say I'm cutting ties, I mean it. If my father demonstrates he hasn't gotten the message, I won't feel conflicted about cutting him off as well." Mad Pirate Bippy replies, "Good for you. If it helps, internet stranger, I'm proud of you for breaking the chain of pain and ensuring a better life for your kids than you had. From one mum who did this to another, good job." Someone asks why won't OP keep the toys? And OP says, keeping the gifts didn't feel right for a number of reasons. Pretty much anything that comes from Mary feels tainted to me, no matter the purpose. Plus, I don't really want to spite her. I don't care about her feelings enough to offend them. Will OP let her kids have a relationship with Mary in the future when they're older? OP says, "When my kids are a bit older, I'll explain who Mary is, what she did, and why we won't talk to her. If they want to pursue a relationship with her afterwards, that will be their choice. I sincerely hope that doesn't happen, but I'll respect their decision as long as they respect mine. I don't think it will happen though. Mary is not a pleasant person, as most of my family members dislike her as well, so unless she drastically improves, I don't think my children would enjoy her company." Does OP's area/country have any kind of legal rights for visitations of grandparents? And OP says, "Not really a concern in my country." Havana Hannah says, "Behind every evil stepmother is a useless piece of shit father. An enabler of abuse is just a weak abuser." It's even visible in how the father emphasized Mary's feelings and his own about the gifts. I explained to him that it didn't matter how thoughtful he thought the gifts were, is a big tell in the post. The father doesn't give a single flying F how OP, OP's husband, or indeed the children in question feel about any of this. It's about Mary and him. Yeah, I said that, and I maintain that same position. This is all just about him and Mary's feelings. They don't care what they did to you in the past. They don't care that she continued to cross boundaries that you set. They just want what they want, and they want to be allowed to continue abusing you. These are not good people, and it's so good that you are giving him that one last chance, because I know he's gonna mess it up, and he's gonna blame you for cutting him out of your life. That's just how abusers are. That's just how these people are. They won't change. And unless he divorces her and gets some serious help himself, he's just going to further embarrass himself, become further isolated from you, and he's going to deserve it. It's so good that we have good examples like OP here, showing that no, I'm not going to let abusers take advantage of me. I'm going to have a shiny titanium spine, and I'm going to stand up for myself. And I'm going to stand up for my husband, and I'm going to stand up for my children. Thank you, OP. Thank you for being as amazing as you are. I really respect that. And thank you for sharing your story with us. My father is now on his deathbed. He verbally and mentally abused me when I was younger, and now wants to see me. I have no desire to see this man, but my mother and sisters are giving me hell over it, and my wife thinks that I should at least go once. What do I do? I have 3 sisters that I love, and a mother that I adore. Not always, though. I hated them when I was younger because while my father would yell at me or belittle me for everything possible, they were the apples of his eyes. I did my best at school in karate, but nothing impressed him. Not when I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university, not when I was the valedictorian of my year group. Not even at 26, when I managed to start my own small company that has grown considerably since. No matter what I did, I was made to feel worthless, less than a person, good for nothing, useless, and a failure. I have lingering issues about it to this day. When I was younger, all I wanted was just once for my father to say that I'm proud of you. He said nothing even close. He doted on my sisters and mother though, and I'm not proud to say that I hated them for it as much as I hated him. How dare they get away so lightly? How dare they get his smiles and laughter and kind words when all I had to get was cruelty? It took me a long time to finally begin a relationship with my sisters or mum that wasn't the jealous, angry son. Today, we are all very close. I love them to death and would do anything for them. Some time ago, my father was diagnosed with cancer. He's had other issues as well. He suffered through 2 heart attacks and a stroke, and it seems as if his body can't carry on anymore. He's dying, and I don't care. I don't have it in me to care, and if he died, I could live the rest of my life having never seen him before he passed, or knowing that I won't attend his funeral. He wasn't present at my wedding either. I did not invite him, which was very noticeable to many of my family members, but I didn't care. I'd found a woman who loved me, and that I loved, and I wanted to share that day with the other important people in my life that I love or strongly like. My uncle was always sympathetic to my case, as growing up, my father, his older brother, was an asshole to him, and he understood why I wouldn't want my father there, even while other family members thought that I should have still invited him. Well, here's the thing. He wants to see me. He probably only has a few months left, and now wishes to see me. My wife, mother, and sisters all want me to pay a visit to him. Well, my wife thinks I should go just once. She isn't pressuring me. She knows my history with him and says if I decide not to go, that's it then. My mother and sisters, however, do think that I should go, and have all spoken to me several times in the past month about this. The only person who's laid off bugging me about it is my older sister. I'm the second child. She's 34, and she was the one who says my father was a dick to me from as far back as she or I can remember. My 2 other sisters are several years younger, 26 and 25. We met recently to talk about it. My older sister and I, for the first time in years, broke down crying. I literally just let it all out. I told her that I can't do it. I tried to put everything in the past, but I can't. I hate that man and what he did to me mentally. I can't forgive him, and she says she understands. She said she would speak to my mother and sisters. However, my mother and sisters tend to be very pushy. Anyway, do you all think that I should go at least once? In the comments, Terrasagus says, "You obviously, and with good reason, don't want to see your father. Your current issue isn't with your father, it's with your mother and younger sisters. You need to be strong enough to say, that man abused me for years. There is nothing he could say to change that, and I will not suffer his presence for your sake. Your insistence that I must see him has been causing me a great deal of emotional pain. Stop pressuring me to do something that I will not do. If you're on the phone with them and they continue to argue and pressure, get off the phone. If you're in their physical presence, leave. You do not owe it to any family member to have some hallmark moment because it'll make them feel better. You need a few months of low contact with your sisters and mother until after your father's funeral. OP replies, thanks. If I don't go, the low contact thing sounds good. At the very least with mum and younger sisters. My older sister has no issue with it. She understands. Terasagis replies, remember, you don't owe it to any of them to do what they want you to do. Do what is right for you. From your description, low contact would relieve a lot of your stress. You could put a block on their numbers if necessary. Your older sister could tell you if there were any important family matters to discuss. Also, expect to get pressure about attending his funeral as well. In your shoes, I'd rather spend that day someplace that gives me peace, like at the beach or hiking, etc., and away from phones, email, etc. Deleted says, go and see your father and tell him this. It is the last chance you will have to make amends. It's the last chance you will have to potentially hear your father apologize, or for him to tell you that he is proud of you, but didn't know how to express it. He might not do any of that, in which case you are no worse off than you are now. In the best case, though, you might get some peace and closure. Obviously, it can't make up for all that has happened, but at least you will no longer have any what-ifs eating away at you. OP replies, honestly, if I go, it'll be merely out of curiosity to see what it is that he wants in his final few days or weeks. Making amends, telling me he's been proud but didn't know how to express it. Even if he did want to say things like that, the time for that was maybe a decade ago when I wanted his validation and respect. I don't anymore. I don't have any what-ifs. Maybe a what-if might have been, what if he'd treated me well instead of like crap? But that what-if disappeared when I cut him off nearly a decade ago. I don't know what to say. I think you did the best for you, and that's all we can ask for. Whether you go or not is completely up to you, OP. I don't think you should go. I think if you want to go say your piece and put that to rest, I respect that, but you have been verbally and mentally abused by this man. You didn't deserve that, and you know you didn't deserve that. You set your boundary and you enforced it and you cut him off for good reason. I don't know what the chances are that this goes well, but I myself wouldn't do it if I were you. That's not to say your decision is wrong if you decide to go through with it, but, have a plan for if things go south and not the way you expect it to. And now, on to the update. So, I went to see my dad, and it basically went like shit. I caved. I effing caved and decided, screw it, I'll see what he wants. Maybe this is something worth hearing. I visited the hospital by myself. No wife, no mum, no sisters, just him and I. He looked old and tired, and just as I predicted, I didn't find it in me to be angry. This wasn't the man I remembered, this was just some old broken man. It would have been a waste of my time to feel angry, and yet I did. I was so pissed off because I couldn't stand across from him eye to eye and let him see that the son he treated like dog shit had built a wonderful life for himself. We didn't say anything to each other for around an hour. Then eventually I found my voice and said, this is the last time we'll ever see each other, right? No response. Then he replied, I know. So I asked him, why now? Why did he want to see me so badly that he had to send a message through my mother for me? And here is where I learnt that my existence was F all to him. He admitted that he did it just to give my mum closure. She didn't ask him to do it, but he knew that she wanted it. So I asked him why he treated me the way he did my whole life, and he replied, I never wanted a son. I never had any interest in one. It really hurt, but I kept listening, and he kept speaking. He said that in the first few years of my life, he tried his best to care about me, but eventually he realized he couldn't. And then came the final nail in the coffin of my relationship with that man. I never loved you, but I didn't hate you either. I just didn't care for you because I never wanted a son. I wanted to give you up for adoption when you were younger, but your mother would never have forgiven me. So I did my best to push you aside, and you would always try and get my approval for stuff. I felt bad at times, but I just didn't care for you. By that time, I was crying. Me, a 31-year-old man, left my dying father in his hospital room and went to my car crying. I could have gone my whole life not knowing that. Screw my mum, my sisters, my wife, and my dad. I'm just so pissed right now. There was a part of me that hoped we would bury the hatchet, but nope. I just learned that he never, ever gave a fuck. I will never speak of my father again. I will not attend his funeral or visit his grave. When he dies, I'll be at the bar drinking because that man is gone from this world, and I will do everything I can to be the father that he never was. Edit. I just want to say thanks to everyone for your kind words, both in the comments and PMs. They really helped a lot, particularly while I was hungover this morning and laying in bed thinking about life. Also to the stranger who gave me gold, thank you. Never had that before and it was quite unexpected. I've got a ways to go still. I feel like yesterday opened up wounds that I didn't even realize had never really healed. And I'll be talking to my wife about it, and most likely a professional as well. I won't cut my mum or sisters out. I am not angry at them. Their experiences with my father were different from my own, and I do not fault them for that. However, right now, the best thing for me is just to not be around them as much. So I don't think they'll be seeing or hearing from me for some time. Once again, I sincerely thank everybody. It was your comments and PMs that made me realize that, yeah, it hurts like shit, but I can't let him have any more power over me. I'm in the prime of my life, and I've built a nice life for myself. I don't need a dying man's approval anymore because I've done the best I could for so long without it anyway. So here's hoping that things will get better soon. OP to a deleted comment says, you know what I regret? I regret listening to my mother. I regret reading the dozens upon dozens of PMs and comments telling me to go see my dad, that I needed to do it. Most of all, I regret listening to myself, to that small voice telling me that this was my one chance to hear him say something that I'd wanted to hear since I was a child. If I had never gone, I would have been curious, but I'm damn sure I would have regretted it less than I regret going to the hospital. Deleted says, well, maybe it was some form of closure, although a really shit one. Good riddance. I don't get along with my father either, and this whole story gives me anxiety. And OP replies, I am effing done. I spent the night at a bar and am just here in a shitty motel room, unable to sleep, and I'm just effing pissed. I had to be the stupid kid who still hoped that daddy might just secretly have loved him, and in reward for my stupidity, I got the same as I've always gotten. Nothing. Effing nothing. Not a single shred of remorse. Katsukuta says, OP's mum really sucks. Imagine staying with someone incapable of loving his own son, who instead treats him like shit. Imagine staying with someone who wants to give your child up for adoption like that, and then having more kids with him. She was lucky they turned out to be girls, but it could have easily just been more boys for him to mistreat. There's something perverse about a man who only wants daughters to the point that he's a piece of shit to his son. There's something twisted about a woman who will allow this to happen. When he said he didn't care about the son, that wasn't true. He hated him for some reason, just like he hated his brother. Super weird and super sad. And once again, it's another one of those stories where the other parent should do something to protect their child. They can see all the signs. I'm sure she recognizes that he was an abuser, and yet she stuck around and she enabled the abuse. She is just as bad as the father is in this situation. I don't know. I don't blame OP if he goes and cuts all of them off. Don't know about the sisters, if they deserve to be cut off, because they're kind of neutral parties in this. They didn't deserve that, but the mother for sure. I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about it, especially if I'm a friend to OP. I'd do my best to get through to him that his mother is part of the reason that the abuse occurred and continued. His mother should have known better than to tell him to go to the hospital and give him a last chance. That's sickening. I'm on board with OP here. I think that he made a mistake by going to the hospital. I kind of felt it before the update, you know. I saw the signs. It's unfortunate that you have to learn the hard way sometimes, but that's just life. I don't blame OP at all for doing that, and I don't blame them for feeling how they feel. That has got to be soul-crushing. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. That was incredibly depressing, but I hope things get better. Our next post is by user Alternative Tale 6910, titled, "Am I the asshole here for not fulfilling my fiance's wish on our wedding day? This is a throwaway account, and I appreciate if you guys give me your honest opinions, as I'm being pressured from everyone, except my aunt, to go against my wish. I'm a 30-year-old woman. I've been with my fiancée Sarah for the last 5 years. We are the same age and we met at grad school. When I was 13, my loving dad passed away. He left a decent amount of money for us. My mum, within 6 months, got engaged to a guy named Bob. Bob had a daughter around my age. My mum married Bob within a year of my dad's passing. Bob really hated me from the start and didn't even try to hide it. He was saying stuff like how my mum should have sent me to boarding school, how if it wasn't because of my dad's inheritance, he wouldn't have me in his house, or I'm a bull dyke because I was in our school sport team and very athletic. He multiple times told my mum that he doesn't feel safe when his daughter is around me. I wasn't even, yet he used this as a reason to exclude me pretty much from everything. My mum, on the other hand, was going above and beyond to prove to Bob that she's the new mum for Bob's little princess. They ended up having 3 more kids. Basically, I was a roommate who did babysitting for my mum and her new family. I never had a birthday party or a special day. My dad's sister was amazing to me. I was at their place all the time. She and her family had birthday celebrations for me, and my mum was making excuses not to show up, and of course, the rest of them never showed up. I was really my aunt and uncle's daughter. They were amazing to me. When I left for university, I contacted my mum a few times, but she was always busy, so I just gave up. Here's the issue. Sarah, my fiancée, comes from a very family-oriented background. Family is everything to her. Her family asked about mine, and I said that my dad passed away, and my mum is busy with her family and lives across the country. I didn't entirely lie, technically. Sarah asked me to invite my family to our wedding, and I told her no. She said it's very embarrassing having only my aunt and her family on my side. I reluctantly invited my mum. She called and asked me to apologize to Bob and my step and half siblings for not inviting them and to invite them all. But I told her no. She said I'm being ungrateful and Bob was a father figure to me. I had a big argument with my mum over this. My mum now says the only way that she comes is if I invite Bob, his daughter, and their kids. Sarah's now pushing me to invite them all because she doesn't want to feel embarrassed in front of her family. These people never even gave me a card or said happy birthday to me, so I see no reason to celebrate my big day with them. I, on the other hand, don't want to let my fiancé down. I just don't know what to do. Should I swallow my ego and invite my family so my fiancé will be happy? I suggested eloping, but Sarah said a firm no. Am I the asshole here for ruining my fiancé's day by not fulfilling her wish? In the comments, did OP want to have a wedding with Sarah? OP says, to be honest, my dream wedding would be elopement. Sarah has this dream wedding in her mind, and I don't want to ruin it for her. She wants a big, beautiful wedding with families surrounding us. I feel ashamed that my family is so messed up, and am scared of embarrassing her. I feel so inadequate and like I'm letting her down. The whole wedding planning has been so stressful, and I understand that it affected her mental health. No. Before getting engaged, we had a very nice and relaxing lifestyle. To be fair, before getting engaged, she never cared if my mom was in the picture or how her family felt if they saw how messed up my family is. A commenter asks, "Are you sure Sarah is the person for you? She seems pretty dismissive of your boundaries and feelings." And OP says, "She was 100% before we got engaged. The whole idea of dream wedding completely changed her." Someone says that OP should postpone the wedding and get in therapy, and OP says, "My auntie said that one time and then changed the topic when she saw me upset. She said you were trying not to disappoint her and win her love because she is literally like your mom. You want to win her love this time." She apologized later, and we both moved on from that topic. Did OP get proper therapy to deal with the abandonment and abuse from her mother? OP says, "No, I haven't. I buried my head into my books when I moved out. I was working and finishing my degree. I started grad school right away, and that is where I met Sarah. I wasn't a virgin, lol. I never had a real long-term relationship before Sarah. It was always casual because I was terrified of being abandoned, so I would always make sure they knew that it's casual. When I met Sarah, I told her the same, but she said she wasn't going anywhere because she liked me a lot. Our casual hookups turned into dating and love. I just think that you wanted an elopement, she wanted a dream wedding. I think that if she gets her dream wedding and you agree to that because you are compromising what you want to fulfill her desires, I think she needs to meet you in the middle and compromise for you and accept that you don't want your family there for good reason, and that in order to get what she wants, she has to compromise and give you what you want. Everyone wins that way. I don't understand why she wants everything and you to get nothing. That's not fair, that's not balanced, that's not how you run a successful relationship. You're going to run it into the ground. You're going to cause your own breakup if you continue that behavior. I think fiancé is being ridiculous here, and you guys need to have a serious talk about this. And now, onto the update. Thank you for your comments and DMs. They really gave me perspective on my life. I sat Sarah down last night and explained my reasoning for not inviting my family. She kept saying, "Ugh, well, that was a long time ago. They might not be the same people anymore." I felt offended and said, "How on earth are you lecturing me when you've never even met them?" Well, it turned out that my mother had been in touch with Sarah. Sarah said they regularly meet for coffee dates and talk. I was about to cry because I was so angry. My mum changed the whole narrative, said Bob was a father figure, a good protective dad, and that it was me who didn't love him back because apparently it's my thing to play the victim. She claimed that my aunt manipulated me and stole me from their family, trying to be a replacement for my mum. According to her, it is all about my mother. I screamed, "Are you for real? Ask her next time on one of your coffee dates why I never had a birthday party growing up. Why was there never a gift under the tree for me? Ask Bob if he even knows when my birthday is, since he was such a loving dad. Why did my aunt have to pick me up before Christmas Eve? Because Bob wanted to spend the holidays with his kids, not with another man's mistake." Sarah basically repeated what my mum has told me my whole life. You just love to make a big deal out of everything, make yourself a victim, and push everyone else away. I told her that she had no right contacting my mum. She said I was cruel and claimed she was just trying to help me mend my broken relationship. She even called my mum lovely and said Bob has changed a lot. He's an LGBTQ ally now that his princess is out. I was floored. An ally? Maybe he should start for apologizing to me for terrorizing my entire childhood. I told Sarah that we are done, I can't do this. Sarah sarcastically said, "You just proved your mum's point. Go run to your aunt. Let that old witch ruin your life." I told her that she needs to find a new place ASAP, considering she's not paying rent. I am. She got mad and asked what excuse I was going to make up this time, trying to justify my bullshit trauma. I stopped replying. She went on a tirade, breaking our dinner plates. I didn't care. I texted my aunt, and she asked if I wanted to spend the night at her place. I said I was fine. I'm taking time off from work. I cleaned up the kitchen, which was full of broken dishware, in the morning because I didn't want my cats accidentally getting hurt. Sarah's still sleeping. I'm gonna see how I can legally evict her. I'm a complete mess, but I'll talk to my aunt and uncle for help. Yes, I'm not gonna start dating again until I see a therapist and work on myself. I can't keep going through this. In the comments, just curious, OP. If your family lives across the country, how was Sarah having regular coffee dates with your mum? And OP says, I explained later, that was a lie Sarah told her parents and I didn't correct it. Yes, I shouldn't have lied to them. I should have taken the hint when she asked me to lie. We live in Lower Mainland, Vancouver, and my mum lives in Abbotsford to be exact if you want to check how far away that she lives from us. Someone else asks, where did you think your significant other was when she was gone for 2+ hours on a coffee date with your mum? How did she do this weekly without you knowing? OP says, Sarah's between jobs, and that's why I stopped charging her rent. I go to the office every day. It was probably during the day. I'll come back soon to answer more questions. I'm very busy now. Gwynasson says, yeah, gonna go out on a limb and say OP's partner was not quite as 100% with her as she thought. Aunt be like, your fiancé seems a lot like your mother. OP, don't be ridiculous. My mother is a using, lying, manipulative piece of shit. Aunt be like, yep. I've seen this a few times. You'd think victims would be hyper-aware, but it's like after years of parental abuse, whatever lighter version their partner is doing doesn't even register. Growing up with parents like that also messes up your idea of what love and support looks like. Subtract the physical abuse and name-calling, and it's an improvement. Media doesn't do a good job at showing a healthy relationships either.